the full-time mage. The extreme lightning. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401, Emo fan is dead. It's been a long time since I last updated this chapter. After the two elemental forces were completely consumed, the black mist began to change. He seemed to be wearing a cloak like a mountain, and his half-empty body would even flutter with the wind. Although the distance was very close, Tangmao could not see his true appearance. Only a pair of blue eyes stared at Tangmao. Playing tricks. Tangmao muttered with disdain, and then a strong wind blew in his hand, supplemented by thunder. Although the power was suppressed by the dark realm, it still showed up. The empty black shadow was also a little shocked when he saw this. Although this is not his own dark realm, but the moment he appeared, all the element, except black magic, should be emptied, right? How could the other party still absorb it? Shocked, but he would not confront head on, because there was no need. He appeared here, just to rescue the body of the black bloody corpse. At this time, there were many black dead bugs falling from its body. Once these bugs died and fell, it meant that Hayla's life was fading. Then the black fog enveloped Hayla, and then the dark mud emerged. When the sand and dust swept in, the two huge figures disappeared in an instant. This is the pool gate leading to the dark hell. Watching the black pool in front of him closing little by little, Tangmao did not intend to chase, because he was sure that the black fog that appeared to save Hayla was the Dark King. Or, it was just a clone. But even if it was just a clone, it made him feel terrified. Moreover, when he made a move before, Tangmao clearly felt that the breath of various element was isolated in this black fog. Even if he was a demon, he could not absorb it by force. In this case, going down to the dark world to provoke, isn't that courting death? Moreover, Yi Xingxia, who needed to be saved, was already safe and sound. I don't even know why. This woman just looked exhausted, but now she seems to have fully recovered. It's too much. The black fog dissipated, and the crowd on the sacred mountain saw that the horrible Greek death god skeleton had disappeared, and the dark execution ground had also disappeared, but the girl who was to be punished, and the demon who went to save people were all standing there intact. At this moment, the knights of the Parthenon were extremely shocked, and the mages of the holy court knelt down almost at the same time. At the same time, the raindrops fell. Tangmao held Yi Xingxia in the air and hovered. Looking down, he saw that the city of the sacred mountain below had long been a void, and even the wreckage could not be found. The sacred mountain still stood in the drifting rain, without a trace of shaking, but on the next sunny day, this mountain of faith would surely reveal its shattered appearance. Bao Lao Tao and others who witnessed all this from beginning to end, at this moment, their hearts were different from theirs. Compared to the holy judge mages who had lost their faith, they all saw the hope of China standing on top of the world. The unrivaled Dark Sanction, a terrifying existence that claimed to wipe out all resistance. Is it still useless now? After the Dark King and Hayla disappeared, Tangmao also returned to normal from his demon form. Although he did not suffer any damage, his magic consumption was extremely high. The Ice Galaxy, Fire Galaxy, and Shadow Galaxy were all emptied. The Space System, Thunder System, and Wind System were also consumed by more than half. And Zunu, Yanji, and Zhao were all in a deep sleep. In addition to the explosion of his shirt, he now looked extremely embarrassed. When Tangmao and the others fell down, Bao Lao Tao, Hanji, Zhu Meng, Pang Lei, and even Asherua came over together. Tangmao, are you alright? What happened just now? Bao Lao Tao asked first. He was sure that the black fog just now was definitely not simple. Tangmao let go of Yi Xingxia. At this time, he had no intention of taking advantage of her. He suffered a great blow today. He originally thought that with his current strength, relying on the demon system, he would be able to travel anywhere in the world. However, one of the clones of the Dark King taught him a clear lesson. Now, he is just one of the many weaklings in this world. Even the superclass mages of human superpowers are actually no different from those primary mages in front of these emperors. After a silence, Tangmao said, I'm fine, and Hayla is not dead either. Huh. Everyone was puzzled, and Ashurua behind him said with a shocked face, "Could it be the Dark King just now?" "Yes." Tang Mao nodded. He was not surprised that Ashurua knew this. After all, this little hoof had also made a deal with darkness. Moreover, her summon beast was a knight from the Dark Realm. Dark King. Hearing these 3 words, everyone present was shocked to the extreme. In addition to being shocked, the holy judge mages were relieved. At least, their faith was not killed. Brother Emofan. Just when Bao Lao Tao and the others wanted to ask something, they heard a cry from behind. Hanji looked back first, and saw that Emofan, who had just been treated by him, and had a breath left, was dead. Dead. Although Emofan did not perform very well in the ancient capital, he jumped into the evil abyss, which was a great favor to the millions of people in the ancient capital. But he could not save his life. For a while, Hanji was a little frustrated, and even a little self-blaming. Xingqia's tears kept falling, but suddenly she thought of something, and then sat next to Emofan, gently hugged him in her bosom, and then slowly closed her eyes. Everyone was a little puzzled. What kind of operation was Xingqia doing? The person was already dead, and she was still going to rely on E to warm him up. Just when they were puzzled, they saw a burst of light around Xingqia, like crystal light powder, floating out from her body. Unconsciously, Xingqia was completely shrouded in a layer of magical light. A shadow of a soul hazy under this special magical light was imprinted behind Xingqia. Strands of hair were lifted up, revealing Xingqia's cheeks perfectly. When she opened her eyes again, her eyes had changed drastically. Obviously this was Xingqia, but her expression was solemn, and she was completely a different person, especially those eyes, which did not belong to Xingqia at all. Dong 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 dong. Xingqia's whole body was emitting light, and gradually she seemed to merge with the light. When everyone was puzzled, they heard the obvious sound of a heartbeat. A small heart made entirely of light floated out of Xingqia's chest, and then fell into Emofan's dead body. This is the resurrection art. Resurrection art. She has the resurrection art. The light of the resurrection art was so special that every member of the Parthenon temple recognized it immediately. Many judgment mages and guardian knights were gathered here. They even witnessed Xingqia using the Parthenon's resurrection art with their own eyes, and even witnessed the coming of the Parthenon soul with their own eyes. However, who would have thought that a girl who was identified as Seren, a girl who was even going to be punished by darkness, could actually master the resurrection art? Question mark? The knights of the Parthenon were originally eyeing Xingqia, but after seeing this scene, they all knelt on the ground and buried their heads completely. Even the judgment mages and faith mages half knelt and saluted together. The believers in the faith hall were also extremely shocked. As some old men who had seen the resurrection light bowed devoutly, countless believers bowed down and worshipped. The pain left by death is often borne by the living, and the only thing in the world that can eliminate this pain is Parthenon's resurrection magic. Ahem. At this moment, Emofan, who had already lost his breath, suddenly coughed. He slowly opened his eyes. Brother Emofan. Xingqia had tears in the corners of her eyes, but a smile appeared in her heart. She had never thought that she could master this kind of power, but she had never been as relieved as she was now, because she saved the person she loved most. In fact, she was very fortunate that she had such power. Chapter 402. It's over. Xingqia, you're fine. That's great. Although Emofan's voice was a little hoarse, he didn't sound like someone who had just crawled out of the gates of death. Brother Moffin, I'm fine. Compared to Emofan, Xingqia was a little weak at this time. She hadn't mastered the resurrection magic yet. Saving Emofan was a huge price. It cost half of her heart to bring Emofan back to life. Xingqia, you. Emofan paused for a moment and suddenly realized something and looked up at Xingqia. He had clearly lost consciousness just now. Even if the healing system was strong, it shouldn't be possible for him to be fine just after being rescued, right? And his current state, and the sudden increase in heat in his heart, all of these made him realize that he seemed to have missed something. It's okay, Brother Moffin, I'm fine. Xingqia didn't tell Emofan what she had paid for, but just shook her head and responded with tears of joy. Emofan wanted to say something, but Xingqia put her hand on his lips. Even if Emofan had 1,000 words to say, he had to shut up in the end. Tang Mao naturally had no interest in their love. At this moment, he was accepting the supply from Asheruaya. Without magic power, there is really no sense of security in such a place. If this group of people take advantage of him now, he will be a lamb to be slaughtered. Although the demon bead still has the energy to demonize again. However, how can the power of the devil be used casually? Even if there is the energy to repay, if it is used in such a short interval, the backlash will be extremely terrifying. Looking at the pendant on Asherua's chest, Tang Mao whispered in dissatisfaction, "Can't it be faster?" Although he seemed to be looking at the pendant, Asheruaya always felt that it was not the case. At this speed, it can't be faster. Bullshit. Tang Mao naturally didn't believe it. He clearly remembered that she had a way to help a person recover magic power immediately. It's just that she will be weaker afterwards. Asheruaya looked at Tang Mao suspiciously. She always felt that this dog man seemed to know her very well. And today, she was almost certain she could indeed help him recover his magic power immediately, but that would also come at a great cost. "You seem to know me very well." Then, Asheruaya asked doubtfully. "Of course." Tang Mao did not deny it, his eyes fixed on the chest. The pendant said, "If you like someone, you have to know everything about her, scumbag." Asheruaya curled her lips. Others don't know about his little things, but Asheruaya did a special investigation after the Tyrant Mountain trip. She knows almost everything about his little things. The women who are involved in it. For such people, she always feels that she will not have any good feelings. Of course, after seeing Tang Mao's strength today, she herself is actually not clear about what she is thinking. But now seeing that Tang Mao is in urgent need of recovery, she still helps him recover with all her strength. Tang Mao is not too greedy. After recovering half of the magic power of each system, he asked Asheruaya to stop. "That's enough." Tang Mao moved his tibia and said to Bao Lao Tao and others. Then he looked at Bora, who was waiting on the side, and saw that his eyes at this moment were more respectful than before. However, he did not say anything to him, but said to old man Bao, "Salang has left, let's go too." His magic power has been restored to some extent, and his momentum has naturally returned. Even if he can't continue to be a demon, who knows? His attitude is arrogant enough. If anyone wants to block the way, he only needs to use the demonic momentum to scare them. This is also the main reason why he is anxious to let Asheruaya restore his strength. Hanji looked at Yixingsha and Emo Fan there and hesitated. At this time, if they leave, then what will happen to the two of them? He dare not imagine. After all, he has already felt guilty once before. Tang Mao also saw his thoughts and immediately said, "Don't worry, they will be fine. Yixingsha will have a very high status in the Parthenon from today." Asheruaya heard this and said dissatisfiedly, "You want to help her?" Although she didn't hate Yixingsha, she didn't like her either. After all, her overflowing maternal love is completely different from her personality. After what happened today, Asheruaya suddenly became interested in the position of the goddess. She didn't want the Parthenon to be handed over to Yixingsha, and she didn't want the Parthenon to be handed over to Yixingsha. But if Tang Mao, who showed such a strong power, supports Yixingsha, it will undoubtedly be a great pressure for her who wants to compete. Yixingsha has already mastered the resurrection technique. With the help of a destructive mage like Tang Mao, it is undoubtedly a tiger with wings. It can be said that in that case, she has almost no fun. "I came here just to kill Seren." Tang Mao replied in a calm voice. Although the fox was dissatisfied with his practice of not answering his questions directly, he didn't say anything. Because at least for now, Tang Mao would not support Yixingsha. Tang Mao strode away, and Bora followed closely behind, as if to escort him, and from beginning to end, no Parthenon knight dared to block his way. Even though the Holy Judge mages were dissatisfied with Tang Mao, an alien, they could not muster the courage to stop Tang Mao. After witnessing his terrifying power and his ability to suppress the strongest means of the Holy Judgment Court, the Dark Sanction. Seeing that he had no obstacles along the way, Tang Mao said that, if he had known this earlier, why would he recover? Wouldn't it be better to just leave? This group of people are really bullies. Of course, this is mainly because there are no priests here now. Otherwise, with the magical power displayed by Tang Mao, he would definitely not be allowed to leave so easily. Hanji and others did not leave with Tang Mao, even Old Man Bayo. After all, many of them came here because of their own things. Only Bora left the city with Tang Mao. Although Bora was a half-life vampire, with the help of some blood from Tang Mao, his mental state instantly improved by many times. Although he did not need to suck blood, Tang Mao's blood was mixed with demonic power. This kind of blood is extremely tonic for Bora. Chapter 403 Returning to the country. On the observatory, Hisha, who had been watching the battle for a long time, looked down with cold eyes, like a ghost without soul, without a trace of life. Because she saw that all the believers did not kneel in her direction, but were looking at the girl, and bowing to her. This scene also represented that her entire plan had failed. She did not eliminate all the saints, and even did not get the Parthenon soul. The Parthenon soul recognized the girl. In 10 years, the Parthenon soul could not accept any new master. Hisha did not have many decades. After all, human life has its limits. A place dozens of miles away from the Parthenon mountain. "Madam, are you okay?" Dulank's attendant asked, looking at the seriously injured Seren in front of him. "If it weren't for those golden knights blocking the way, that kid might have taken my life." Seren covered his chest and said weakly, "Perhaps even the former master may not be able to subdue that boy." The attendant also witnessed Tang Mao's strength, and said with some emotion, "Do you have any plans? If not, follow me." Seren didn't seem to want to continue talking about this, but asked the guard who had just revived him, "I'm sorry, I can't do it. You have committed too many sins. He doesn't want you to do this. Everything I promised him is based on his survival." Seren interrupted the attendant before he finished speaking. "Why can't that girl activate your Bishop Bloodston? Could she be?" Seeing that Seren was unwilling to talk about this, the attendant was too lazy to persuade her to do good, but asked about Xingqia's matter very seriously. Seren stood up shakily. Although she was seriously injured, it was not affected if she walked. After all, there were still many blood bottles to be restored here in the Parthenon. Then, he looked at the attendant and said, "If you want to follow her, but there will be a day when we will stand on opposite sides, and I will not show mercy at that time." The attendant had no expression on his face, and then said, "Madam, this is the last time I call you madam. After today, if I meet you, I will do my best to take your life. Whatever you like." After responding, Seren dragged his wounded body away. Although she was indeed in a very bad state today, not many people knew about it. Moreover, today's disturbance at the Parthenon mountain will be of greater help to her future. After Tang Mao left the Parthenon, he took Bora back to the magic city to rest. A few days later, Old Man Bayo called and brought back the news from the Parthenon. Hisha was acquitted, and Tang Mao was not charged with any crime. Although his demon system was identified as evil magic, who would be sent to arrest him. On the day when he broke into the Dark Sanction and left the weak, the holy judges did not dare to take action, allowing him to leave the sacred mountain openly. Now who dares to cause trouble? The terrifying power of the devil was witnessed by the entire Parthenon and most of the holy judges. In this world, many truths are still as powerful as a fist. Although they can contact the magic associations of the 5 continents to deal with Tang Mao, if they really have nothing to do all day, to pursue and deal with one person, it would be fine to arrest him once and for all. If they can't do it, what kind of trouble will they cause? Of course, it's not that no one can stop Tang Mao. The reason why he can be safe and sound is naturally related to the great help of Old Man Bayo. With the protection of Old Man Bayo and the people from Hisha choosing to ignore it, the matter was left unresolved. However, Tang Mao must not use the demon system in the city. In this regard, Tang Mao also expressed his gratitude. As for this verbal punishment, he ignored it directly. Whether to use it or not is entirely a matter of mood. But for the great kindness of Old Man Bayo, he still silently expressed in his heart that he would bear the happiness of the old man's granddaughter for the rest of her life, that is. Old Man Bayo didn't know about this, otherwise he might have come back from Greece. In the apartment in the Magic City. Bora, how do you feel? Have you recovered to your peak? Since returning, Tang Mao has not been in a hurry to do other things. Instead, he supplies blood to Bora every day. The power of this vampire is extremely powerful. Among all the monarchs, he is definitely at the level of the peak monarch. Although he may not be comparable to the supreme monarchs such as the skeleton, the black snake, and the mountain corpse, but it is still no problem to deal with a few superclass mages. If he is not given some blood, although his power is the same, he will fall into a deep sleep for a long time. He doesn't like his little brother who only knows how to eat and sleep. Moreover, a little blood every day is nothing to Tang Mao. Thank you for the help, Master. Bora himself did not expect that the devil's blood could also restore his spirit. Although it can't make him live longer, this feeling is really wonderful. Don't thank me, I help you improve your spirit, because there will be places where you will need to work hard in the future. He is obviously not the kind of person who gives in vain. If you give, you need a return. Except for Tang Yu, it can be said that he is like this to everyone. There is no way Tang Yu was raised, it is different. Master, if you need it, I will do my best. Bora knelt again and continued. No need to kneel all the time, it's the age now. Tang Mao waved his hand. Being knelt by an old monster who has lived for 1,000 years, I always feel something is wrong. After Bora stood up, Tang Mao said again, since you have recovered, then come with me to a place. It will be our permanent place of survival in the future. Bora looked at Tang Mao with a puzzled look. I got a city when the national government competition was held. Tang Mao said lightly. Hearing this, Bora was stunned. You know, the difference between a city and a piece of land is extremely large. Even if it is a small city, the value is very considerable. Moreover, to get a city, how hard is this? Tang Mao was not surprised by his surprise. He smiled and said, compared with the interests I have fought for our country, I don't want much. The resources allocated to the first general of the national government are absolutely considerable. The land area of Greater China is definitely the largest in the world, and there are countless places to defend. Because of the scarcity of resources, the number of military mages who die each year is also the highest in the world. The income from this resource can not only reduce the damage to the army in various places, but also enhance the overall strength of China. Since this resource can enhance the power of a big country, it is naturally nothing to give Tang Mao a small city with a low safety level and a sea monster. Bora has just woken up and is not very clear about the dispute between the government and the country. Moreover, he has no interest in understanding these. What he knows is that the master in front of him will also be a noble family in the future. Oh, in the near future, he may be the master of a noble family. That's enough. Chapter 404, A Trap from Xiao Zheng. After the two arrived at Finio City, the people from the municipal government came to greet them in person. Tang Mao was actually very curious about how the other party knew about his arrival. However, these were not very important to him. But when the person who received him took out a so-called land deed contract for him, Tang Mao was completely dumbfounded. The city that was promised to be there suddenly disappeared? Question mark? And now, it just said that he could choose any piece of land? Question mark? He was very unhappy, and then he took out the land deed given by Xiao Zheng. However, just when he was about to show it to the receptionist, he realized that he was cheated. Xiao Zheng wrote on it that he could choose a place outside the safe world to build his home. The Finio city government was responsible for providing the greatest help. Before, he always felt that the entire Finio city was unsafe, but now it seems that he was careless. Although he was very unhappy, he had to accept it now. It can only be said that the old ginger is still spicy. When he came out, Tang Mao saw Muningsu, who was arranged by him to come here. You weren't imprisoned by them, were you? You know, before I went into seclusion, I had already told Muningsu about it. I told her to come here, to take over Finio City, after she returned home. But she never gave me any news, so Tang Mao was very confused. Was this cold girl imprisoned? Although the people here didn't have the strength to do so, he was really confused by the fact that she hadn't been heard from for so long. Muningsu shook her head and said, no, they just asked me to wait for you here. They treated me to delicious food and drinks every day. I wanted to ask you what was wrong with you, but you were at the Parthenon, and I couldn't contact you, so I could only wait for you here. Well, you've become so fat recently. Let me feel how much flesh you've gained. Tang Mao reached out and touched Muningsu. Although it was insulting in broad daylight, it seemed that, since there was no one around, Muningsu was used to his bad habits and didn't refuse. Then he said, "What happened?" Tang Mao paused, and didn't continue to be shameless. He sighed and said, "I was tricked by Xiaozeng, the old fox." After saying that, he took out a contract. After seeing it, Muningsu didn't react much. It seemed that she had expected this result, and comforted Tang Mao. "In fact, I guessed all this. However, I haven't been eating and drinking every day these days. I found a piece of land, which feels very good. Do you want to go and have a look?" Tang Mao knew that the place Muningsu mentioned was there without thinking. However, now that it has come to this, he had no choice but to nod and agree. The land that Muningsu found is located in the north of Phenio City. It is a very special piece of land. It is a flat land cut out by two narrow mountains. The terrain is higher than Phenio City. The mountain range in the west is called Fiayu Mountain. It is a very good mountain barrier that blocks the demons of Nanling from the outside of the mountain boundary. Most of the demons of Nanling will not cross this mountain to come here to attack humans. Even if there is, the Tang family has nothing else, so how can it lack the mountain guarding beast? So the safety of this piece is absolutely top notch. The mountain on the east side facing the sea is called Shuangyang Mountain. It is composed of two mountains. There is a valley river between the two mountains, connecting this piece of Yueyang land and allowing Yueyang land to lead to the sea. Moreover, this piece of land will go north through Hangzhou and directly to Shanghai, the magic city. Going south, it is very close to Phenio City, almost less than 10 kilometers. The most important thing is that Xiaozeng said that outside the Anji, Tang Mao can occupy the land at will. As for the problem of clearing the demons nearby, it is not difficult for Tang Mao. He plans to go back to Hangzhou to see his wife and bring the black snake here. Although Hangzhou may be dangerous without the black snake, this is obviously not something Tang Mao should care about. "Is this place okay?" After the two flew over, seeing that Tang Mao did not speak, Muningsu asked softly. Muningsu really likes this piece of land from the bottom of her heart. But she is not the one who makes the decision after all. Xiaozeng said that we can choose any place outside the safety zone of Phenio City. Tang Mao smiled. After hearing the word "we," a smile appeared on Muningsu's pretty face. But although Tang Mao said so, Muningsu did not mean to have an independent mountain. "Then this is it." Then she said with a feeling of powerlessness, "It's just that, after choosing this place, we still need to clean it up. Otherwise, you don't need to worry about this. I will arrange a strong helper for you. With it, any demon will leave on its own." Before Muningsu finished speaking, Tang Mao interrupted. Muningsu was a little confused. Although she trusted Tang Mao very much, this matter was not trivial, so she asked, "Who is it?" "Totem Black Snake, and Totem Bazar and my new little brother Bora." Tang Mao did not hide anything, and told it directly. Muningsu didn't know what Bazar and Bora were, but she knew Totem Black Snake. When Hangzhou was attacked, wasn't it the Black Snake that appeared and resolved the crisis? It's in Hangzhou now, and it's a snake god. "You're not talking about the big snake in Hangzhou, are you?" Muningsu asked uncertainly. It's not that she doesn't believe it, but it's really unbelievable. You know, it's a snake god, the existence at the top of the food chain. Although she hasn't seen it, it's unmatched by its own strength to shock the existence of a tribe of sky demon eagles. And such a powerful existence, since Tang Mao said it was his little brother? How could she not be shocked? Or else you think it is? Tang Mao responded lightly. Seeing Muningsu silent, Tang Mao said again, "And I was in the battle in Hangzhou. And, in fact, I grew up with the black snake, since I was a child." Muningsu half believed and half doubted, and then said, "Then what about the totem Baksha you mentioned, and Bora?" "Bora, come out." Sometimes, some things are more effective if you just shout them out than explaining them yourself. As Tang Mao finished speaking, Bora, who was hiding in the dark, suddenly emerged. With the strength of a peak monarch and a vampire, it was naturally not something Muningsu could sense at the moment. Chapter 405 Tang's Establishment. Bora emerged quietly. Muningsu paused slightly, stepped back a few steps, and came to Tang Mao's side. "Don't be afraid, he is the Bora I mentioned." Tang Mao comforted Muningsu's soft body. Muningsu has always known that Tang Mao has abnormal talent and abnormal strength. However, she never thought that he actually has such a backer. You are not. Muningsu hesitated for a moment before saying, aren't you a mountain villager? How can you be so powerful? They are impressed by my charm. Seeing that Muningsu has been looking at her, Tang Mao said narcissistically. She naturally didn't believe such words and felt perfunctory. Bora naturally saw it all and immediately expressed, Miss Mew, the master is not joking. Such a powerful boss actually called this man master. She really wanted to ask this Blood Clan boss, your boss's dignity? Don't be stupid, you actually know the other one. He was not surprised by her confusion. There is always a process of acceptance for such things. I know. Muningsu felt that she had too many doubts today. The demon that swallowed Zao Manan in Venice was the Baksha I mentioned. Although she thought so, the second wave of explosions made Muningsu stunned again. Before she could speak, Tang Mao continued, of course, Zao Manan did not die, and Baksha just saved him. Bala did not know these things, nor was she interested in knowing them. She was somewhat uncomfortable with the sunlight here, and then said, Master, I will take my leave first. Yes. Tang Mao nodded. After Bala left, he looked at Muningsu again and said, this matter is a bit troublesome. In fact, it is about Zao Manan's family. I think you are still clear about the affairs of the big family, right? When she heard this, she immediately understood. Originally, she thought that Zao Manan was the one who had it easy. But she didn't expect that it was just like that. Then where is he now? Muningsu asked. They should have taken Zao Manan to get the God Seal praise gift. Tang Mao didn't know where the two bastards had gone, so he could only make up a story. Knowing that he was fine, Muningsu didn't really care where he was, and at this moment she had already believed what Tang Mao said. So she said, then bring the black snake here, as soon as possible. Okay. Tang Mao nodded and responded. After the two left here, Muningsu continued to stay in Phenio City. After establishing a family, she still needed to have income, so she had to discuss some cooperation. As for the candidate for cooperation, Lin Junction, who helped her when she first came here to train, was naturally the most suitable. Tang Mao didn't care too much about these. After spending a night with her, he was ready to leave. Seeing Tang Mao was about to leave, Muningsu hesitated and said, can I bring my father here? Of course. Tang Mao agreed without thinking. After leaving Phenio City, he went to Hangzhou. It was a pity that his first wife couldn't be contacted because she was on a mission, so he could only come here to bring the black snake and return to Phenio City. After not seeing each other for more than a year, Tang Yu seemed to be at a critical moment of promotion, so she was a little busy. Although he felt a little distressed about this, he had no chance to dissuade her. After bringing back the black snake, the mountain sweeping work was completed in just one day. The Tang family was also officially established. Tang Mao was a celebrity who ranked first in the national government competition and was very famous in the whole of China. Now that he had created his own family, it naturally attracted a lot of attention. Especially after knowing that Muningsu, who was originally from the Mu family, had also joined the Tang family, it was even more of a public opinion. Muningsu's participation in this reputation was naturally what the Mu family didn't want to see the most. In the World School competition, people knew that the Mu family had given up Muningsu, and now Muningsu followed Tang Mao to set up his own school, and it was so sensational, which was completely a slap in the face of the Mu family. It was hot and painful. Muningsu's departure had no impact on the entire Mu family, but it had a significant impact on their reputation. Knowing that Muningsu was coldly expelled before entering the national government, and Muningsu relied on her own strength to enter the World Academy competition, and finally won the response of many people, the Mu family's actions had already chilled many mages who wanted to join them. Now Muningsu and Tang Mao are setting up their own business. Although it is Tang's, she is a girl. What does this mean? It is self-evident, and this is equivalent to pushing this contradiction to everyone's attention again. When people discuss this matter, it is bound to make more people question the Mu family. From now on, we will be on the opposite side of the Mu family. At night, sitting on her own territory, Muningsu said softly, everything is up to me. Tang Mao did not give too much comfort for this. The simple four words have already expressed everything. Muningsu nodded and took the initiative to lean on Tang Mao's arms, holding her soft body. Tang Mao was agitated with evil fire. We haven't exercised for a long time. Zuxu feeling the air leaking from her collar. Muningsu blushed and said, it's not suitable here. Don't you think it's beautiful? This is our new home, and you get to experience it for the first time. Tang Mao naturally chose to ignore her refusal. At this time, almost nothing can stop it. Bora in the dark saw that his master was about to start exercising, and he wisely left to patrol. Although he and Zuansh had been searching for a whole morning, who knows if there will be any fish that slipped through the net. The next day after the site in Phenio City was sorted out, Tang Mao left alone. As for Muningsu, Bora, and Zuansh, they all stayed in Phenio City and started the construction here. The Mu family wanted to inspect the safety issues here through some people from the Magic Association. But when they came here and saw Zuansh and the Blood Clan Bora who suddenly appeared in the dark, the people from the Magic Association immediately got out. Damn, 2 Monarch level fathers? Even if a few superclass magicians came, they would be in danger. How could they dare to search for anything? The most important thing is that the territory here was given by Shaozeng, the great speaker of China. They had no way to ask for help from the Magic Association. Moreover, they could leave alive this time, but what about the next time? They really had no confidence. After all, Tang Mao was a great benefactor of the ancient capital and the first in the national government competition. They were really tired of offending such a person. Chapter 406 Lingling grows up. Magic City. After returning to Magic City from Phenio City, Tang Mao first strolled around his small apartment. After not finding Munugio and AI22, he headed for Kingshan hunting house. Speaking of which, he hadn't visited Lingling for a long time. When he thought about not seeing Lingling for so long, he felt that he was making a mistake. He didn't accompany the little loli he raised well. If this goes on, wouldn't she become unfamiliar with him? Tang Mao felt that this was his mistake, especially since Old Man Bao had just helped him a lot and saved him a lot of trouble. He should spend more time with little Lingling. Lingling, did you miss me? After Tang Mao arrived at Kingshan hunting house, he happened to see Lingling coming out from behind the bar. There was still some milk tea residue on her mouth. It seemed that she had just finished her nap and drank a small bottle of milk. Lingling was not too surprised to see Tang Mao, but her little face was full of dissatisfaction. Baby, you look so unhappy. Is it because I didn't see you the first time I came back? Tang Mao picked up Lingling and kissed her on her pink and tender red apple cheeks. I'm going to get married. Lingling pushed Tang Mao, a little lover, angrily, with some emotions on her face. Tang Mao had no self-awareness at all and hugged her again, then rubbed the little lola's asterisk and said, you have grown so much in such a short time. It's great. Even Lingling, who has a good mentality, blushed instantly after being rubbed. Because she was holding her hips, the bulge in Lingling's body was just next to his face. Shameless. Let me go, Lingling said with some shame and anger, while grabbing Tang Mao's shoulders. Are you sure you want me to let you go? Tang Mao looked up at Lingling and said with a playful look on his face. Lingling was still very rational. If Tang Mao let go at this time, her little pages would be smashed to pieces, right? Although she thought Tang Mao would not do this, she still endured it for the sake of her little pages. Then he said, put me down slowly. You little girl, why are you so thoughtful? Tang Mao curled his lips and said, if I don't put you down slowly, can I let you go directly? Well, you are such a person. Lingling said very affirmatively. The most basic trust between people. Tang Mao said with a hurt look. You also said that it is trust between people. Lingling repeated it. Hearing this, he was a little confused. There seems to be nothing wrong with this sentence, so how can you be so distrustful of me? Tang Mao continued. But are you a human? Tang Mao paused, and now he understood why this little girl repeated what he just said. So she was scolding him as not a human being in a roundabout way? Question mark? Tang Mao felt that this little girl was getting more and more arrogant, and he needed to teach her a little lesson. Immediately, he exerted a little force on his hand. Ah! Lingling's rosy little face turned completely bloody. Damn it, what are you doing? Lingling was about to use civilized language. Although she hadn't cursed yet, she had to say that it was effective. At least Tang Mao didn't pinch her. As for why she suddenly hugged her head, it might be because he was too gentle, right? Lingling, can you pay attention to your image? Just when the two were in a stalemate, Lingling suddenly came down from upstairs and said with some blame. She didn't know that Lingling was forced to hug, mainly because she was holding Tang Mao's head tightly at this moment. Otherwise, Lingling wouldn't think so. Seeing that the future aunt was here, even if he was shameless, he couldn't continue to bully Lingling, right? We haven't seen each other for a long time. Lingling's little request is nothing, and she is still young. Tang Mao looked like he was coaxing a little sister, which made Lingling want to bite him to death. How could Lingling be willing to hug him? It was clear that she had to hug him. This dog man was so bad. He rubbed her. Lingling was not a fool. Although his sister was a little young, her IQ was extremely high. Girls matured early, and Lingling was already in junior high school. How could Tang Mao hug her like this? It was obvious that this bastard was taking advantage of him. It would have been fine if he hadn't pointed it out, but he was pretending to be with him. Tang Mao said it, but he also let Lingling put it down. When they were alone, Lingling would be used to being a little shameless, but now her sister was here. If he continued, Lingling would be really angry. You busy man, how come you have time to come to our little hunting ground today? Lingling asked when he saw Tang Mao put Lingling down and walked over. What do I have to do? After the national government competition was over, he really had nothing to do now. Didn't you create a family? Lingling said again. With Muningsu managing it, there's nothing for me to worry about. Tang Mao was a typical hands-off boss. He didn't care about these things at all. Moreover, the current situation of Muningsu's clan members is not very good. With the establishment of the Tang family, they have a place to stay. Although they are not from the Mu family, they can still have the surname Mu. It's just that they have no relationship with the Mu family. You are too much. You handed over all the affairs of your family to Muningsu. You are so relaxed. Lingling said with disdain. Lingling also felt that what her sister said was right, but Tang Mao was too much. This is simply exploiting Muningsu's life. Oh, you are a bit awkward to say that. I'm just a name. The establishment of this family is just to give Muningsu a home, so that she can arrange her uncles and uncles. Tang Mao is now telling lies, and it is really not red in the face, and the heart is not beating. He was also an innocent boy back then. These years of experience have made him a different change. The two sisters gave Tang Mao a contemptuous look at the same time. In this regard, he also ignored it directly. It's not like he hasn't been despised by girls before, so what's the harm of having another pair of sisters? By the way, Lingling, are there any bounties recently? I'm really short of money. Although the land doesn't cost money, nor does it cost money to clean it. But construction, recruitment, and countless projects all cost money. Do you really think it's so easy to build a noble family? Except for buying nutritional supplements for his two daughters, the income he received from the government was almost all invested in his own home. Now he really feels so poor that he's peeing blood. Chapter 407 Pearl Academy. Lingling knew that this bastard definitely didn't come here to tease her. Sure enough, as soon as she heard him speak, she immediately understood the purpose of this thief. It turned out that he had no money and came to work. However, she hadn't been out for a long time, and facing a group of primary school students every day was really enough. So, even though she wanted to refuse Tang Mao, she still looked it up seriously. But unfortunately, there were really no tasks at the moment. Lingling said with some disappointment. No. Well, if there are any 7-digit tasks recently, remember to take them. Tang Mao said helplessly. Without the reward that brought money, Tang Mao was about to leave when he suddenly remembered something. That is, there seems to be a place that can not only make Yanji stronger, but also seems to have the power needed to replenish the demon beads. Although his beads still have enough power to become a demon once, since he can accumulate it, why should he wait until it is gone before looking for it hard? Lingling, I'm going to the Taklamakan Desert in the Tarim Basin in the next few days. Are you interested? Then, Tang Mao spit out the name of the place and asked. Ling Ling, who had just looked lost, became energetic when she heard this. She was naturally happy to take risks. She was almost bored to death staying in this big demon city every day. The Taklamakan Desert is located in the northwest of China, and there are countless demons living there. After all, it is between the Shianshan Mountains, the Kunlun Mountains, and the Altan Mountains. It is a vast basin, and the most central area is the famous Taklamakan Desert. It sounds very exciting, and Ling Ling likes exciting things the most. You know, the real hunters travel in the west of China, where there are really death and opportunities. Unlike Ling Ling, whose eyes were shining, Ling Ling asked with some doubt, "That place is dangerous, what are you going there for?" She was not worried about the safety of the two. Being able to run wild on the Parthenon mountain was enough to prove his strength. But she didn't understand why he went there for nothing. My little girl's strength is almost close to the promotion stage. It is said that the fire element there is extremely powerful. So, I want to take a walk. Tang Mao said one of the reasons. It seems that, because of the relationship mentioned, Yan Ji, who has been well cultivated, ran out of the contract space. Looking at the floating little lolly, Ling Ling was a little surprised and said, "What kind of rare treasures did you feed this little guy? It's only been a short time, and it's so strong." Not to mention Ling Ling, even Ling Ling looked shocked. It's already very abnormal for Tang Mao, a poor 13, to have a current strength. Unexpectedly, little Yanji can be cultivated to such a powerful realm. Is this a rich woman on the list? Little Yanji looked at the two young ladies looking at her with confusion, and then looked at Tang Mao with some confusion. "You are so fat that they don't recognize you anymore. Eat less delicious food in the future," Tang Mao said very seriously. Upon hearing this, little Yanji's big eyes instantly became moist. She said with an aggrieved look. Even Ling Ling, a girl who only likes adventure and bounties, felt a little distressed. "What are you talking about? Little Yanji is so cute." She immediately refuted for Yanji. As if she understood what Ling Ling said, little Yanji floated to her side and acted like a spoiled child. "Okay, you can make the arrangements. When you find a suitable place, remember to contact me." After Tang Mao explained, he was ready to leave. Although little Yanji was grateful to Ling Ling for speaking for her, she still chased after her father when she saw him leave. After leaving Kingshan hunting house, Tang Mao, who was a little bored, headed towards Mingsu Academy. Although he has only been here for a few days to study, the main reason for his growth is attributed to this place. In this case, he should come back and take a look. Moreover, now that the family has been established, it is necessary for him to learn the formation studied by Dean Zhao and then carry it forward. Of course, he did not come here for Dean Zhao's formation. It was mainly because he missed the campus. When he returned to Mingsu Academy again, he was surrounded in an instant. Compared with Fan, he is really famous. After all, he went straight to the main campus shortly after entering school. Then, in a year, he has maintained the first place in Liyuan until now. In addition, the battle with the national government made Mingsu Academy famous all over the world. In this case, there is no student of Mingsu Academy who doesn't know him. Senior Tang Mao, it's really you. Ah, it's the senior himself. Oh my god, I'm lucky enough to meet Senior Tang Mao in my lifetime. A group of fangirls, as if they were on stimulants, surrounded him the moment he entered the school. Then, the crowd got faster and faster, and the girls closest to him began to rub against him with their soft bodies. Tang Mao felt that he was being taken advantage of. This group of fangirls was really crazy. However, he really didn't mean to refuse at all. However, as more and more fangirls and fans rushed over, some even reached out to put their hands into his clothes. Tang Mao felt that this was too much, especially since the girls around him were not all young, beautiful, and pretty. In this case, he naturally couldn't let things go on, and then the silver light flashed. The next moment, Tang Mao disappeared into the crowd. After leaving the crowd, he immediately used the shadow skills and ran away. These guys are really too crazy about chasing stars. A moment later, in Dean Zhao's office, Dean Zhao saw Tang Mao coming, and he didn't smile, but felt helpless. Tangmao, you are not young anymore, and you are more or less a celebrity. Why are you still so rude? Dean Zio looked at Tangmao, who ran in without even saying hello, and used shadow magic, and said this feedly. I have no choice, Dean Zio. Tangmao came to the sofa, and sat down directly. Then he said, this group of younger brothers and sisters in the college are too enthusiastic when they see me, as if they have taken stimulants. You don't know that I have been taken advantage of a lot. After saying that, Tangmao raised his eyebrows and grinned. By the way, Dean Zio, we are all men. What are you afraid of? Do you have any secrets that you are afraid of being discovered? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 408, Forced to be a Mentor. It's not enough that you are rude, but you are also making trouble with this guy. People who don't know would think that I have done something shameful. Dean Zio scolded with a smile. Well, look at what you said. How can I not know what kind of person you are, Dean Zio? Tangmao just joked casually. He still respected the old man in front of him. After all, he really helped him a lot and gave him a lot of good things. By the way, Dean Zio, the government is over, and I have one honor for you. I think it's time to graduate now, right? Tangmao continued. Yes, you can graduate now. At present, even some teachers in the school are not as strong as you. Dean Zio nodded in agreement. Although Tangmao didn't study here for a long time, he was at least one of the students he paid the most attention to. When it comes to graduation, Dean Zio said that he was really reluctant to let him go. Then just give me an excellent graduation. Hearing what he said, Tangmao felt that some troublesome things could be omitted directly. I'm very happy for you to graduate early, but the school has its own rules, and the procedures must be followed. Dean Zio said in a very old-fashioned way. Tangmao was speechless for a while, so he still had to work in the end. He refused in his heart. After all, he didn't want to get involved in such troublesome things. It would be nice to have some time to drink some wine, taste tea and look at the girl's white legs. However, although he thought so, he didn't just give up and leave. After all, if he didn't graduate, he wouldn't get the rewards given by the school. Among them, there are also rewards for winning the national government. As the first place in this competition, whether he is an individual, the school or the country, they have all made huge profits. He doesn't need to think about the country's resources. After all, he is not from a military school, and these resources have nothing to do with him. Moreover, he got what he wanted from the land in Phenio City before. As for personal rewards, he has already obtained them all, and the basic improvement of lightning magic is 2.5 times. It can be said that in this world, in terms of destruction magic alone, almost no one can compare with him. The last one is his school, and the benefits he got are even more obvious. Although some of the resources and benefits he got are certainly not as much as those obtained by the school, for an individual, it is also a considerable income. So, since you can't get it directly, just do what you should do. Dean Zio ignored Tangmao's expression, walked out, and came back, flipping through the materials. These materials were all taken back by him. It was noted which tutors were taking students for internships, and which tutors were taking graduates. The main campus does not have many restrictions on students. Students can stay in school if they want to, as long as they complete the tasks assigned by the school every year. If students want to graduate, they can, but there are 3 types of graduation, one of which is completion. Completion means completing the studies, but not obtaining the magic graduation certificate badge of the Pearl Academy. Most of these students are stuck in strength. The Pearl Academy reluctantly admits that you have studied here, but does not recognize that you are a qualified graduate. This first type, in fact, is just some people who give up halfway. As for the second type, graduation is to follow some of the school's mentors to complete the corresponding graduation tasks. The mentors will give feedback on the student's performance to the school, and then the heads of the departments of the school will decide whether the student is qualified to graduate and issue magic graduation badges. The magic graduation badge of the Pearl Academy is quite important. It is a symbol of strength and status in the Magic Association, Hunter Alliance, and Family Alliance. Basically, the qualified graduates of the Pearl Magic Academy will be quickly recruited by the society. However, Tang Mao obviously doesn't need these. The last third type of graduation is called excellent graduation. For excellent graduation, it must have made enough contributions to the school first. When the school determines that the student can be given an excellent graduation badge, it arranges a student to follow a more famous mentor, to complete a certain research and task, and then feedback is returned to the school based on the student's performance. The mentor, dean, and department head jointly determine whether the student can obtain the title of excellent graduation. Students who graduate with outstanding performance receive a Pearl badge, which represents outstanding magic students highly recognized by Pearl Academy. Such outstanding graduates are not recruited by the society, but are the objects of competition among major forces. Those who can graduate with outstanding performance are not only outstanding in strength, but more importantly, they are young. Tang Mao's graduation process must be the third one. I looked at it and found that there is no graduation task suitable for you. The difficulty is too low, which is not conducive to the assessment of outstanding graduation. Dean Zio flipped through the documents and shook his head helplessly. Soon, Dean Zio showed another smile on his face and looked at Tang Mao. Tang Mao did not respond. Without thinking, he knew what graduation task he would face next. Dean Zio was embarrassed when he smiled, because from beginning to end, Tang Mao did not respond to his channel. This made him have no chance to say what he wanted to say next. Seeing Dean Zio's constipated look, Tang Mao felt a little funny. He knew very well what the old man was holding back. The tutors under him probably don't have enough manpower, so they found work for him. However, he just needs to not take this chance. However, Tang Mao still underestimated Dean Zio. After the two of them were silent for a while, Dean Zio suddenly said, "Well, our graduation tutor went to study and just happened to leave a lot of research, projects, and tasks behind with no one to lead them to complete. I think it's probably not difficult for you to let your tutor lead you to do things. If you complete things that are not difficult, it will naturally be difficult for me to approve you to graduate with excellence, right? How about this? I will give you the qualification to be a tutor and let you lead a team of graduating students to do graduation projects. How about it? Is it a surprise? This is a chance for the school to give you a free experience of being a tutor." Fuck you. Tang Mao was stunned after hearing what Dean Zio said. Do you dare to be more casual? Moreover, you look like you are doing good for me. What's the situation? Question mark. As if this is a good job. Dean Zio, you are being very unkind. I worked so hard to finish the national government competition and won supreme glory for our school. The future Mingzhu Academy will surely be the first in China, not to mention the world. Moreover, even in the world, it will have an extraordinary status. How can you cheat me like this? Tang Mao said with dissatisfaction. It's not good to lead a useless student and live a leisurely life. Moreover, for a time management master like me, time is life. What tasks can I lead a few noobs to do? Where is it suitable for me? Look at what you said. Don't you trust the character of my Dean Zio? If you were not too outstanding, how could I send you to do such a thing? The school has accumulated a lot of orders recently. It's an indicator that needs to be completed. Since you are the best member of the school, you should share some of it. If you do it well, I, Dean Zio, will personally award you the excellent graduation badge. Dean Zio completely ignored Tang Mao's dissatisfaction, and when he talked about it, he really got more and more excited. I'm not, Dean Zio. The indicators you gave me are not student indicators. They are clearly annual assessment indicators for my teacher. Don't worry about such details. Pick any of these graduation projects. You see, if you are a team leader, you can choose the tasks as you like, but if you are an outstanding graduate student, it is the instructor who chooses you. It depends on whether the instructor has time and wants to lead you. At the end, Dean Zio had an inexplicable smile again. He seemed to be telling Tang Mao that, if he led the team, He would graduate with excellence immediately after the task was completed, and he could get his own resources immediately. If he didn't lead the team, then when he could get the graduation task would be to be determined, and as for the resources, that would be even more to be determined. He really wanted to be more courageous, and just turn around and leave. It's just a few resources, isn't it? Tang Mao is a man who regards money as dirt. At worst, he doesn't want it. Of course, he also stood up, but the damn Dean Zio seemed to have him under control. The moment he stood up, he directly told him the reward after completing the task. Tang Mao finally had no choice but to take on this task. Of course, he didn't do it for any dirt, but just thought of a little Russian girl in this training task. Of course, the Russian girl is not important. The most important thing is that this woman is guarding a totem. Although the strength is very weak, it is at least a monarch level totem. It is obviously the most appropriate to take it in as a younger brother and let it guard the house. The most important thing is that this totem is not arrogant and has no temper. It is quite suitable, no matter how you think about it. Chapter 409, Long time no see, Rabid Concubine. However, it was not in vain that he agreed. When Tang Mao agreed, he also applied to Dean Zio to include his own concubine Mu. He naturally could not forget that Mu Nugio had such a skill and could accompany him. Of course, the most important thing was that this girl was suitable for this task. After Mu Nugio received Dean Zio's invitation, she did not agree, because now she had some personal matters to deal with. After Tang Mao learned that Mu Nugio was busy, he personally asked her what she was doing. After learning that it was her family's affairs, he had to give up. Without Mu Nugio, Tang Mao had to retreat and invite concubine too. Thinking back to that big sigh, it seemed that he had not mastered it for a long time. After receiving a long lost call from this bastard, AI Tutor completely lost any reserve and agreed directly. Tang Mao went to the designated classroom and stayed there for an hour, and AI Tutor arrived. After more than half a year, AI Tutor really lived up to his expectations and grew up a lot. Seeing AI Tutor, Tang Mao wondered if his wife had grown again. Of course, whether she had or not, he could only think about it. Looking at the big rabbit, Tang Mao picked her up without hesitation, rubbed her and said, "My beloved, did you miss me? Why would I miss you? You are so heartless." AI Tutor snorted, pouted her mouth, and said with some resentment. Holding her, Tang Mao carefully looked at AI Tutor today. She was wearing a white short-sleeved shirt, with the neckline revealing the snow-white skin of her neck. Although the whole top was big, it was still bulging. The lower body was also a white short skirt, which only covered half of her thighs. Behind it was a pair of round and straight legs. She was wearing black middle tube socks and a pair of small leather shoes. She had long hair draped over her shoulders, delicate features, and a neat light makeup. It was obvious that she had dressed up carefully. Although she said cruel words, at the moment she was picked up, she was much more obedient than Ling Ling. Holding the back of Tang Mao's head, letting him do whatever he wants. How can you be so heartless? When I returned to the Magic City, I went to find you first. Tang Mao said nonsense seriously. Really? AI Tutor was obviously very happy to hear this. Of course it's true. During the period of the national government competition, I thought about you almost every day. Anyway, it was Dean Zio who notified Mu Nugio, so there was nothing wrong with finding her first. As for Ling Ling, he went there by himself, but there was no other contact. Even if there was, he couldn't admit it, right? I thought you, a dead bastard, had forgotten me. AI Tutu pouted and said dissatisfiedly, I heard from my brother that you, a dead scum, have been surrounded by women all the time. AI Jiang Tu, this dead face paralysis, how can you slander me like this? Tang Mao said with dissatisfaction, as if he was wronged. Anyway, I don't expect you, a scumbag, to be devoted to me. As long as you don't forget me, it's fine. After hearing this, Tang Mao always felt that he was indeed a bit of a dog. Not only did the AI family's darling give himself to him, but he didn't fight for it at all. Fortunately, AI Jiang Tu, the expressionless man, didn't know about this. Otherwise, based on the situation during the training, I guess he would have to lead a team to encircle me. Sure enough, having a powerful brother-in-law is also a headache. I really didn't expect us to be selected. I thought it was hopeless. This is Dean Zio's task project. Yeah. I almost racked my brains before. There was no quota. I didn't expect Dean Zio to suddenly tell me today that there is a new project. At this moment, several discussion voices came in intermittently from outside the door. As soon as she heard someone approaching here, AI-22 immediately jumped off Tang Mao. After all, she knew their mission here. That was to be a mentor. Although she may not be a good student, she still has to be a role model. Even if she can't be a role model, she can't lead the master, right? Seeing AI-22 standing beside her seriously, Tang Mao patted her soft buttock slightly. When she was about to speak, she was responded by AI-22's stern eyes. It seemed to warn Tang Mao not to mess around. Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly, and he said helplessly, "Silly rabbit, close." As he said, he pointed to the area in front of his chest. AI-22 also reacted immediately. After seeing that the short-sleeved shirt on his chest was a little wrinkled, he hurriedly turned around and tidied it up. However, she didn't mean to buy it at all. Instead, she gave Tang Mao a fierce look again. That little look seemed to be blaming herself. This is too much. I kindly reminded him. Why did he blame him in the end? But before Tang Mao could say anything, the door of the classroom opened, and then 6 students walked in. When one of the students saw Tang Mao sitting in the teacher's seat, he immediately frowned and said, "Classmate, what are you doing? Even if the instructor hasn't come yet, you shouldn't sit in his seat. If you leave a bad impression on the instructor, no one will be able to get the graduation badge successfully." After he spoke, another student, who was also a ruthless person, came over and seemed to want to pull Tang Mao down from the podium, and said, "I'm different from them. I want to get an excellent graduation badge, so you'd better not do anything that will displease the instructor, or I won't forgive you." A cute and well-behaved junior school girl looked very familiar with Tang Mao, but when she saw that they were about to fight, she hurriedly said, "Forget it, forget it. We still have to work together in the future, so don't hurt the harmony." Swoosh. As soon as the girl finished speaking, the student who tried to grab Tang Mao was instantly knocked back and then hit the wall in the room with a bang. Although it didn't hurt, they were all young and energetic. How could they be beaten suddenly? How could they bear this? Immediately, a magical aura floated around the student, as if he wanted to fight. "Boy, I advise you to stop. If you do, I won't be polite." Tang Mao looked at the junior brother who was thrown out by him with interest, and said with a playful look, "I'm not afraid of you." The junior brother naturally didn't care about what Tang Mao said, and immediately drew a star map. However, just when he was about to finish, a sudden silver light appeared around him, and then the surroundings were full of oppression. The star map was forced to disperse before it was formed. The junior brother, who was oppressed by the gravity of space, knelt directly. He wanted to resist, but no matter how he struggled, he couldn't move at all. With full of disbelief, the junior brother looked at Tang Mao. After all, he was also a high-level magician, but he didn't expect that he would be completely suppressed in front of this guy who looked the same age. "What, you don't accept it?" Tang Mao asked with a smile while suppressing him. No, at this time, AI-22, who had reacted, looked at Tang Mao and said, "Stop it." He looked at several junior students and said, "He is indeed your mentor." Ah. As AI-22 said this, everyone present was stunned. They were all full of disbelief at this time. After all, Tang Mao was obviously the age of a student. But, the other party was actually their mentor. Especially the junior who had just been freed. He was sweating and panting at Tang Mao. Although he was very embarrassed now, he was even more panicked about Tang Mao being a mentor. After all, whether he could graduate and get a badge depends entirely on the teacher's impression of him. "I'm sorry, mentor, I didn't know you were." The student lost his temper instantly, stood up, bowed and apologized. "It's okay, tutor. I'm a generous person, and won't bother with you. In addition, Dean Zhao asked me to temporarily replace a tutor to do the task, and by the way, I will help you graduate. If you perform well, you will naturally be given graduation badges. If you don't perform well, you can continue to study in Mingsu." Tang Mao said lightly. Yes, we will definitely perform well. "Tutor, you look really young. How do you maintain yourself?" Tutor, you are so handsome. Tutor, what are your strengths? Several students flattered him and asked him questions. Tangmao was naturally too lazy to respond to their inquiries, and he gave them an appreciative look for those students who flattered him and told the truth. Okay, stop talking nonsense. Let's listen to your mission. Then, Tang Miaoke said, Dean Zio is a powerful water mage. He has set up a water circulation array with all the rivers, canals, and streams in Tangxiang. It can not only allow the crops to get continuous irrigation, but also block some rats, monsters, and insects. If necessary, it can even be used as a refuge barrier to protect the safety of ordinary people. The project went smoothly at the beginning, and the other instructors have already arranged each small array perfectly. But a while ago, the source of Tangxiang water was blocked, and no natural water veins flowed in. Our mission this time is to go to the source and find out the reason for the dry source. It is worth mentioning that there are several demon tribes living in the source water. We will set off tomorrow, and everyone will prepare their own equipment for going out. The water source is naturally outside the Anji. Upon hearing this, the students did not look scared at all, but were excited. It seems that they are very interested in going out for training. After Tang Mao gave a brief explanation, he let the students disperse, and he took his concubine Rabbit to go on a date. Chapter 410 AI22's exclusive. It was already late at night when the two left Mingsu Academy and returned to the apartment. It is worth mentioning that this place has become Tang Mao's private property. He only found out today that Dean Zhao bought this apartment in his name when he won the first place. This may be regarded as Tang Mao's reward for his contribution to Mingsu Academy. Mingsu Academy has indeed given him enough, but there is no comparison with the return he brought to Mingsu Academy. It's just one more house. Dean Zhao and several big wigs in the school have no objection. As soon as he returned to his residence, Tang Mao immediately regained his wolf nature, holding the little rabbit in his mouth, and went upstairs. Today, there were only two of them in the apartment, and there was no need to be too intimate. Tang Mao had been looking forward to this dream life for a long time. It can even be said that not only Tang Mao was looking forward to it, but also AI22, the little hoof, was looking forward to it. After all, every time he sneaked around, he just took advantage of Tang Mao for free, and he didn't get any love at all. But now it's different. No matter what this scumbag was like in the past, he loves himself now. No matter whether it's true or not, AI22 thinks so anyway. After a round of lovemaking, the big rabbit collapsed on the sofa. The two went upstairs and downstairs. I don't know if they took stimulants or what. They went up and down almost without stopping. Stinky Six Hooligan, do you still remember what happened when we first met? AI22 rested for a while, looked at where he was flipping through the magic project given by Dean Zhao, and threw it aside for him to live with, and asked softly. Although Tang Mao was very interested in Dean Zhao's research project, he had just finished playing games with the little rabbit, so he naturally couldn't ignore it. I remember, how could I forget? Tang Mao said that his memory was very vague, but at this time, no matter whether he remembered it or not, he would just respond first. Then, without waiting for AI22 to ask, he spoke first. Why did you think of asking me this? I just think that I might have been blind at the time. AI22 pouted his little mouth, as if he didn't recognize anyone after eating. Fuck you. Tang Mao wanted to swear immediately. This little rabbit was typical of being arrogant. But in the end he held back and asked again, why do you say that? Although there are indeed some symptoms of blindness, some things are not so beautiful when they are said out loud, right? If I hadn't been so obsessed that I dragged System U to make a bet with you, you would have belonged to me alone. AI22 said, and then he looked very angry and said, forget it, maybe even if I hadn't dragged her, System U would have been deceived by you, a scumbag. This was obviously not something he could answer. Tang Mao pretended not to understand and didn't look at AI22. Why don't you say anything? Seeing that Tang Mao didn't respond, the big rabbit complained behind him in dissatisfaction. I don't know if it's because of the bed or something else. It's really comfortable to lean on. Unfortunately, there is no chance to enjoy this soft bed at ease now. And then Tang Mao asked, what do you want me to say? Have you been interested in Sister Mu for a long time? AI22 said again. I'm interested in you too. Can't you see it? Tang Mao responded without thinking. You're lying. AI22 didn't believe it at all and complained. You bastard. You asked me to pay the bill for the first time you invited me to dinner. Look, if I don't do this, will you remember me? Seeing Tang Mao's well-reasoned argument, she actually believed it a little. So, you like me too? AI22 hugged Tang Mao and asked. That's for sure. Tang Mao leaned back and continued. After all, I haven't seen a girl who just entered college and is not a healing department who can have such a talent. AI22 was a little shy for a moment, patted Tang Mao a few times, and said shyly, you are bad. Why am I bad? Tang Mao said seriously. Doesn't liking start from some protruding points of a girl? When a woman likes a man, doesn't the first impression also need to be perfect? I'm being honest. A stupid woman like you only cares about handsome guys all day long, Tang Mao said with disdain, and then said confidently, it's because of my outstanding appearance that I can easily crush men of the same age and conquer you. If it were someone else, I don't know how wild you would be. Hearing this, AI22 laughed directly. He bent his head and said, you scumbag, where do you get the confidence to think you conquered me with your appearance? Isn't it? Yes, AI22 responded with a smile, and added, I don't know if I will be struck by lightning if I speak against my conscience. He heard her previous admission clearly, but he didn't hear the sentence she added later. Moreover, Tang Mao felt that love, built on his appearance, would never last long, so he needed to show AI22 his other excellent aspects. For example, when it comes to making games, he has plenty of energy, and there are countless ways to play them. AI22 said that today's game can be over. She was about to break it. Unfortunately, sometimes, she is not the one who can make decisions. More than an hour later, Tang Mao was refreshed and walked downstairs, as if nothing had happened. The moment he went downstairs, he lay directly on the sofa. Although games make people happy, they really ruin their waists. Fortunately, he has a devil's body, so he recovers quickly and will not leave any sequelae. Otherwise, he might be an old man crying for his daughter. After giving AI22 a rest, Tang Mao picked up Dean Zio's project again and looked at it. I have to admire Dean Zio's strength and courage. If his formation uses natural water veins as the source of power, and all the water paths distributed in Jiangnan as the array tracks, to form a water circulation array, it will really benefit the Jiangnan area. It can block monsters, protect food, and even serve as a barrier shelter. The most important thing is that all the driving energy comes from natural water veins, which is equivalent to no consumption. The reason why the barrier is not easily opened is not because of the scarcity of resources, and the consumption of magic stones and litmus is huge. Dean Zio uses the flow of natural water veins as the source of power, saving the most important energy consumption. If it succeeds, it will benefit mankind. Of course, he also knows that Dean Zio's research is naturally successful, and his family will get a new protection in the future. When choosing the site before, the reason why Tang Mao expanded the territory was naturally because it was surrounded by water. Mu Ningxu felt that this was not good. Although the area occupied was much larger, the area to be guarded was relatively much larger. Moreover, it was okay to face land monsters, but it would be a very troublesome thing to encounter sea monsters. Tang Mao didn't care about this at all. After all, with Dean Zio's research project and the protection of Black Snake and Baksha, if the sea monsters dared to flood here, they would be courting death. Chapter 411. Stand at attention when being beaten. The next morning, AI22, who was too sleepy to get up, was woken up and came to the school gate. Several students had been waiting here early, and then they set off and took the train to Tongxiang County. Tang Mao, who was a teacher for the first time, actually felt quite exciting. For example, these students were respectful to him. Although he was also careless and did not regard teachers as elders when he was a student, it was still a good feeling to see these young guys treating him with the courtesy of elders. Especially the massage girl next to him. This technique is really top-notch. AI22 stood by and looked at Tang Mao with some dissatisfaction. He always felt that this scumbag had impure intentions. After all, there were so many people here. Why did Tang Mao point fingers at the sweet looking girl? Bei Hongfei on the side had an ugly face. This teacher was too good at ordering people around, right? Moreover, even he, the young master of the Bei family, had never felt this kind of treatment. It was really enviable. Tang Mao had no way to deal with AI Tutu's complaining eyes, but he naturally had no reason to be polite to Bei Hongfei. He looked at the boy from the Bei family and said, "Why, are you still not convinced by what happened yesterday?" No, the student was reckless. He actually dared to fight with the instructor. Bei Hongfei was really upset. After all, he didn't have time to fight back when he was beaten yesterday. It was okay if no one mentioned it, but it was really upset to be mentioned again. However, he was upset, but he was the instructor, and this was related to his graduation, so he chose to endure it. Look at your lack of ability. If you are unhappy, just say it. This instructor will give you a chance to fight back, but I think you'd better face reality. If you fight with me, you will almost only get beaten. Tang Mao looked at Bei Hongfei. Although they were both high-level mages, the gap between them was really huge. When Bei Hongfei heard this, he really felt like his temper would explode at any time. He looked at Tang Mao with dissatisfaction. This is because he is afraid of getting a bad review for his graduation assessment. Otherwise he feels it is necessary to let Tang Mao know his strength. Don't worry, I'm not the kind of petty person. If you want to try, you can come. Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for you. Moreover, if you beat me, you can directly get an excellent graduation. Tang Mao seemed to see through his thoughts and continued. Really? Upon hearing this, if Bei Hongfei still keeps a low profile, how can he have the face to continue? This guy is simply too much. Although he knows that Tang Mao is a space mage, he is not invincible, even if he is a space mage, if he is prepared. Everyone is of the same age. In his opinion, even if he can't beat Tang Mao, he can make the other party recognize the reality. Of course it's true. Tang Mao felt a little funny, and then continued, "So you are worried about this? Why didn't you say it earlier? I'm not the kind of person who likes to hold grudges. Besides, I haven't met a free punching bag like you for a long time. Speaking of which, I feel itchy if I don't beat someone for a day." Bei Hongfei was in a bad mood, and the other students also curled their lips. They all felt that Tang Mao was a little too pretentious. Maybe he didn't know Bei Hongfei, but the students present knew it. Since the teacher said so, the student really wants to learn from him. Bei Hongfei seemed to be afraid that Tang Mao would go back on his word, and said hurriedly. As soon as he finished speaking, he looked like he was going to do it. Tang Mao looked at him like an idiot and said, "I said that, even if you want to be beaten, you have to wait until you get off the car, right?" Bei Hongfei was embarrassed. Tang Mao didn't care. Anyway, in the end this kid must be the typical one who stood at attention after being beaten. So he said, "Don't worry, I won't go back on my word. But kid, you still have to be mentally prepared." Bei Hongfei said that, if he had the opportunity to do it, he would not talk too much. After all, he had no place to show his mouth cannon. After arriving in Tongxiang County, the first thing they did was not to do the task. Instead, they found an open place and wanted to see Bei Hongfei show off. Although the Magic Association prohibits mages from fighting in private, there are no outsiders here, and no one will notice if they try. "Teacher, be careful," Bei Hongfei reminded, while drawing the star map. Although he was polite, his hands did not show any politeness. Flames scattered all over his body, and then a fierce fist came straight at him. Tang Mao had no intention of moving at all, just watching him quietly. As for this fierce fist, although it has the bonus of the spirit seed, the power has increased a lot. But, for him, it is completely harmless. After all, when he found out that he was majoring in the fire system, Xiao Yanji quietly merged into his body. So even if he stood here with his hands around his chest and was bombarded by the flames, he could not cause any damage at all. You know, he has 2 high-level flames in his body, Jian and Qingluan. Moreover, the level is equivalent to the existence of soul fire. Boom. Everyone thought that Tang Mao was drawing the star map quickly. That's why he didn't make a move, but no one expected that he would actually stand there and let Bei Hongfei beat him. and he had no intention of resisting at all. After seeing this scene, Kaiokinkin, who had been massaging Tangmyo all the way, wanted to use water magic to save Tangmyo. Don't do it, this is entertainment between him and me. However, before Kaiokinkin could draw the star map, Tangmyo's voice of refusal was heard in the flames. After hearing Tangmyo's voice as usual, the students present were all stunned. Even AI Tutor was confused. You know, although the physique of a magician is very strong. However, no matter how strong it is impossible to admit magic bombardment, right? Did the instructor use magic tools? After being shocked, a student suddenly said in confusion. After all, if it wasn't magic tools, it would be too unreasonable. Originally, the other few people thought so, after listening to what the guy who opened his mouth said. However, when the flame began to be absorbed and filled in Tangmyo's hands, they realized that they had thought too much. This seemingly young instructor really has something. Bei Hongfei was also stunned. He didn't expect that after his fierce punch, the opponent was completely unharmed? Is this your strength? If that's all, it's too weak, and not worth my effort. Tangmyo crushed the flame in his hand, and then said with dissatisfaction. Bei Hongfei was furious when he heard this. After all, he is also a student of Ming School, and he is also a top existence in the academy. The reason why I came here, to do tasks with these brothers, is only because the previous stinky brothers did not do the tasks according to the requirements of the instructor and were implicated. And now, they are actually looked down upon? Immediately, Bei Hongfei began to describe the constellations. P.S. 10,000 words are updated today, and the future updates will be determined by subscription tomorrow. Finally, please look for awards and monthly tickets for genuine subscriptions. Please look for Gideon Redding. Chapter 412 Tangmyo. I'm not that kind of person. But even so, Tangmyo remained indifferent, as if he was not the one being attacked. Except for AI Tutu, the other students were also stunned. If Tangmyo had not endured the bombardment of the fierce fist at the beginning, to be honest, they all thought that Tangmyo was too arrogant. This is a high-level magic. He didn't even move. AI Tutu was also quite scared just now, but Tangmyo withstood the bombardment, which showed that he did have the strength to resist. Just when Gao Hongfei successfully drew the 6th star map, Tangmyo, who was standing there, moved. The speed was so fast that the people next to him didn't react. It seemed that in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Gao Hongfei. Even Gao Hongfei, who was drawing the constellations, was dumbfounded. His understanding of the constellations was abandoned halfway in an instant. He didn't even have time to use any defensive means, and was blown away by Tangmyo's punch again. Of course, an ordinary punch would not directly knock him away. This was a punch mixed with spatial force. With a bang sound, Gao Hongfei was knocked to the ground. If you were my enemy, you would have died when you were drawing the constellation just now. Tangmyo had no intention of hurting him, and he controlled the strength of his punch very well. Although Tangmyo did not mean to seriously injure him, this solid punch still hurt a lot. Bei Hongfei climbed up with difficulty. He wanted to say, "Didn't you say you would not do it?" But, wouldn't it be a bit too harsh to say such a thing? After all, he is also a child of aristocratic family, and he still has some basic common sense. Moreover, facing Tangmyo, he was indeed careless just now. If he used magic tools, the result might be different from now. But losing is losing, and Tangmyo held back just now. He could still feel it. The opponent didn't even release a magic or use a magic tool, but he defeated himself. Although it is hard to accept, this is the fact. "Boy, do you want to continue?" Tangmyo said with a bit of boredom. To be honest, he really didn't expect that his junior brother, who is also a high-level magician, would be so weak. Even if he was a sandbag for himself, he was not qualified at all. "Teacher, I give up. I surrender." Although Bei Hongfei didn't know what realm Tangmyo was in, he was sure that he was very strong. A competition ended so hastily, which was something that the others didn't expect. After all, they thought they would see a scene of the collapse of the sky and the boiling sea of fire. Then Tangmyo asked AI Tutu to open the blueprint and study the training task this time. After seeing the blueprint, it was discovered that many water channels in Tongxiang County had undergone large-scale rectification. It didn't feel anything when you were in it, but you could see how brilliant these changes were when you flew to an altitude of more than 500 meters and looked down. Tang Mao didn't stop and led everyone to the outside of the Anji. After leaving the Anji, the students showed vigilance on their faces. They were different from Tang Mao, who had been dealing with demons since the awakening of magic and had not really experienced several life and death trials, so their nerves were tense as soon as they came out. Even AI Tutu, an assistant who looked very experienced, was still the same. Although AI Tutu likes exciting things, this is the first time that she has left the NG without the protection of mentor. This is because she followed Tang Mao. If it was someone else, AI Tutu would have turned around and left. She is the little princess of the AI family. Why does she need to go out for adventures? Even if she achieves nothing, she will not worry about food and drink. This water vein flows down from Biuan Mountain, and this water vein flows from Qinghai Lake. Teacher, I will go to Biuan Mountain to take a look. I have been there, and I'm quite familiar with it. After observing the area, Bei Hongfei, who had just been beaten, suddenly volunteered. Can you do it by yourself? Tang Mao looked at him with a hint of consideration. This kid is still quite strong. After all, he is a high-level magician, so he is naturally not too weak. But his actual combat experience is obviously not very high, so he is very curious. Can this guy really do it? We came out to experience. If the instructor follows us to do everything, what kind of experience is there? What's more, we joined in to share the instructor's worries. The most important thing is to deal with the water vein severance as soon as possible. Bei Hongfei didn't care about Tang Mao's contempt and responded solemnly. The other students couldn't help but show contempt when they heard Bei Hongfei's words. This Bei Hongfei was so arrogant before. How come he flattered so shamelessly after being beaten? However, it is indeed the right thing to do to please the instructor. Another equally arrogant student was not to be outdone and said, Instructor, I will be responsible for Zhujiaxi. I will definitely find the reason. Instructor, Ming, I will do it. As the two people spoke, the students divided the tasks one by one. Tang Mao was naturally happy and free. He told them to be careful. After sending a signal, if there was anything, he let them leave. Tang Mao did not go with them to check the situation. Again, they are all high-level mages. If they can't even send a signal, then they are dead. What's the point of graduating? Although as a mentor, it is an obligation to ensure the safety of students, but no one can protect them for a lifetime, right? If they are really in danger, they only need a signal, and Tang Mao is confident that he can rush over to support them at the speed of light. AI Tutor looked at the students who left and then said, do you trust them to investigate the situation alone? After all, this is not a safe world, and she can't help but worry. It doesn't matter. They are all high-level mages. If they can't even send a signal when they encounter danger, it's better to die early and reincarnate early. Tang Mao said very calmly. In fact, the reason why he is so confident that there is no problem is because these guys are already high-level mages, and the strongest ones around here are only commander-level demons. Commander-level demons are not even a dish in front of Tang Mao now. In this case, does he need to worry? The tasks have been assigned, but Ko Kinkin, who has been massaging, cutting tea and pouring water, and has a sweet appearance, feels a little embarrassed. It seems that she has nothing to do here. However, after hearing Tang Mao's indifferent words, she feels that maybe staying here is safer. But at the same time, she has a headache. If she keeps following the tutor, how can she graduate? So she asked softly, Teacher, what about me? Just wait for orders. Ah. Ko Kinkin paused. Why, you don't like my arrangement? Hearing the girl's puzzled voice, Tang Mao turned around and asked. No, but the tutor also needs excellent graduates. If you don't do anything. Ko Kinkin looked at Tang Mao in a panic, because she thought of some things she shouldn't think about, especially Tang Mao loved to order her along the way. Ko Kinkin wondered, I won't encounter unspoken rules too. Tang Mao naturally understood the strange look of the little girl, and then she was a little dissatisfied. Did she look like that kind of person? Why are you looking at me like that? You don't think I'm the kind of person who would have anything to do with students, do you? He really didn't like this awkward atmosphere, so he said it bluntly. Kaokin was stunned again. Although she did think so, she didn't seem to say it out loud, right? She always felt that she was going to be punished. Don't be afraid, I'm not that kind of person. Besides, if I really wanted to do something to you, do you think she would still be here? Tang Mao pointed at AI Tutu and explained. Although AI Tutu knew that Tang Mao was a lecherous bastard, she could also see that he still had a limit. For the little girl in front of her, it was completely wisdom to direct her, and occasionally amused her. Apart from that, she had no other thoughts. If there really was, she, AI Tutu, would contact help immediately. This was a warning given to Tang Mao last night. There was no way. The trust between people was sometimes so thin. After Tang Mao explained, he took the two of them to the Qinghai Lake marked on the drawing and asked the students to check for clues, which was just a process. This kind of thing is obviously not something these rookies can detect. Chapter 413 Strange Lake. Arriving at Qinghai Lake, looking at the completely cyan and silky lake surface, it is really a beautiful scenery. It's a pity that it is outside the Anji, otherwise there will definitely be many people driving here late at night, watching the lake, while shaking the car. After all, people in the city love to play like this now. It must be said that people in the city know how to play, of course. He is also quite interested, and he is even more interested in the moths in the lake and the girls who raise moths. Did you see anything? After Tang Mao and the other two arrived here, he looked back at AI Tutu and Kaokin and asked. AI Tutu nodded in a mysterious manner, while Kaokin was a little embarrassed. She didn't see anything at all. Don't worry, observe slowly. Tang Mao sat there and then said. AI Tutu was also lazy, so he sat there next to Tang Mao, and Kaokin seriously checked. What's the difference here? Seeing Kaokin go over there to observe, AI Tutu asked quietly. Tang Mao had long guessed that the stupid rabbit hadn't found anything, but he didn't expose it. He reached his hand into the right place and said, there is no reflection in the lake. Although Kaokin was observing over there, she was not far from here. After all, she was an assistant. If she was seen, wouldn't she be pointed at? However, just when she was about to take Tang Mao's claws away, she paused. There is no reflection in the lake. To be honest, AI Tutu really didn't care about this. Now after hearing what Tang Mao said, he was inexplicably a little scared and said, there is no reflection here. Is there any big monster? There are no big guys, but there are quite a few small guys living in groups. Tang Mao rubbed the rabbit's head and said lightly, AI Tutu stood up directly. Monsters living in groups, isn't that a tribe? Question mark? She was naturally panicked. Tang Mao's hand that stopped in the air was instantly caught. The big rabbit obviously didn't care about these and pulled Tang Mao to run away. There are demons living in groups here. With so few people, wouldn't they be courting death here? Why are you panicking? Although there are many of them, their strength is not that great. Tang Mao pulled the big rabbit that was about to run away and explained again. Teacher, I found something wrong. At this time, Kaokin also found something wrong and ran over in a panic, shouting, reflection. It's a reflection. You have good observation skills, but don't make a fuss when something happens. Tang Mao comforted the girl in front of him. It's no wonder that Kaokin was afraid. The diameter of the lake is about more than 3 kilometers. It is definitely a lake with a large area in this forest. It is surrounded by mountains on all sides, but there is no lake water reflecting the outline of the mountain. This is really too weird. There must be something terrifying in it. How could she not be afraid? Such a big lake, there is no water in it. What can fill it up? Teacher, let's go. Okay. Kaokin said weakly. Go send a signal first and call everyone else over. Seeing the girl's frightened look, as a considerate teacher, he naturally wanted to satisfy the girl's wish. Kaokin didn't want to stay here any longer. It was really so terrifying outside the Anji. She immediately sent a signal to summon the students who went to other places to investigate. Not long after, the 5 students returned to the team one after another. With Tang Mao's questioning, they all seemed to have thought of the strange characteristics of the lake. Of course, the main reason was that there were always demons near the lake. If they got close, they would probably be besieged by demons. Tang Mao thought for a while and said, "You go back with senior AI first, I'll stay here to check it out." The reason why there is no reflection in the lake is that the lake is full of moths. Although their damage is not very strong, everything is still based on the safety of several people. It's okay for him, but if they get into danger once they start, it will be more troublesome. "No, can you go back with us?" AI Tutor refused immediately after hearing this. What a joke. Such a large area of the lake was covered, leaving Tang Mao here alone. She was not at all relieved. Tang Mao said that he was fine, but as the saying goes, too much concern leads to confusion. AI Tutu didn't listen to this and said that he would never allow Tang Mao to stay here alone. He insisted on going back to ask for help. There was no way, so he had to agree in the end. Of course, it was absolutely impossible to ask for help. It was just a little moth girl. What was the difficulty? As for their number, in front of his own flame, nothing counted. After returning to the town, Tang Mao told everyone to wait until tomorrow to observe and decide whether to ask for help from the academy. Although several students wanted to ask for help immediately, Tang Mao was the one who made the decision, and they had no choice if he didn't ask for help. AI Tutor wanted to say something, but was stopped by Tang Mao's eyes. In the end, she had to give up. Anyway, she thought in her heart that she would never allow Tang Mao to contact the strange creature by himself. Late at night the night was quiet, without any insects or birds chirping. The light of the stars densely covering the black sky became the only light in this mountain forest, making it look not so dead. I must find out the reason. I don't want to fail to get the excellent graduation badge again. How can I still have the face to go back to the Bei family? Bei Hongfei ran out alone, muttering to himself. He didn't want to ask for help. If he found the reason and solved it himself, he would really graduate with excellence. When he came here, he pushed aside the tall grass in front of him and slowly walked towards the Qinghai Lake. Qinghai Lake is still so quiet and beautiful. The lake surrounded by mountains is more like a huge emerald green jade. Bei Hongfei stared at the lake, and an indescribable weirdness suddenly surged in his heart. However, he did not retreat. He plucked up his courage and took a step. Walking straight to the lakeside, Bei Hongfei poked his head out slightly, wanting to see what was going on with the water. Puff 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 on the lake. Something soft was flapping gently, fanning up a pleasant fragrance. Inside, it saw countless cyan wings, those delicate lives, and saw them forming clouds in the sky, making the stars hazy and dreamy. Just when Bei Hongfei was in a daze, a soft voice suddenly came from behind him. "What are you doing here?" Bei Hongfei was startled when he heard it and turned around abruptly, only to find the gentle woman in a retro tang skirt standing behind him, her body slightly leaning forward, two strands of hair hanging by her cheeks, all the way down to her plump chest. She had a faint smile on her face, and a pair of eyes that were bright and pure at night were looking at Bei Hongfei curiously, as if with a bit of playfulness. It seemed that beauties have a harmless aura. After seeing her, he did not question her identity, but said with concern, "Girl, what are you doing here in the middle of the night? It's very dangerous here." "You haven't answered my question yet," the woman said. "I'm a student of Mingsu Academy, and I'm here to do my graduation task." Bei Hongfei said truthfully. "Then what did you find?" The woman said again. "I saw a group of butterfly-like creatures. I will tell my mentor and ask him to contact the government to deal with it." "Girl, where do you live? I will take you home," Bei Hongfei said warmly. Puff puff. Just as Bei Hongfei finished speaking, he suddenly found that the woman was standing there with her legs crossed, her figure graceful and her eyes cold. Behind this woman, a pair of soft and huge wings suddenly appeared. Although the child looked like a tiger, he knew that these wings were obviously not some winged magic tool. "Who are you?" Chapter 414. Desperate Yushishi. "Can't you see that she is a half human half demon shemale?" At this moment, Tang Mao's voice suddenly came out. Hearing this, the moth girl and Bei Hongfei were both stunned. Bei Hongfei didn't expect that his mentor was also here, and it seemed that he had been following him all the time. thinking that Tang Mao came to protect his safety late at night. Bei Hongfei was grateful. The moth girl was angry about the name Tang Mao gave her. What is shemale? She is just a person who got the power of the totem. A shemale with chicken feathers? This man is too much. Just when she wanted to call the moth to give Tang Mao a sleeping gift package, suddenly the little Yanji beside Tang Mao floated out. As soon as Yanji appeared, the moths dispersed instantly. You want to fight with me? Are you sure that your moths can withstand my fire? Looking at the moth girl Yushishi, Tang Mao said with a playful look. Puda puda puda. The moths in the sky kept hovering here, but they did not dare to get close to Tang Mao. Even Bei Hongfei, the tiger kid, had been dragged to his side. Yushishi could clearly feel the flames of this man and the terror of the little loli beside him. Teacher Bei Hongfei, who was rescued, looked at Tang Mao with gratitude, as if he wanted to say something but stopped. Don't call me teacher. This is the first time I have met a guy as stupid as you. Tang Mao said with contempt. Of course, it was because he knew Yushishi's identity. Otherwise, he would not suspect anything just for her figure. Bei Hongfei was embarrassed. Although he wanted to explain, it seemed that there was really nothing to explain. In the middle of the night, which girl from an ordinary family would dare to wander around here? Tang Mao didn't have time to talk nonsense with him. He turned his head and looked at Yushishi there, licked his lips and said, I'll give you a chance. Return the energy of the people in this town by yourself. Follow me and you will be spared. Yushishi was ashamed and angry at Tang Mao's slightly aggressive gaze. Then he said, HMPH, they all deserve to die. If you have the guts, kill me. At worst, I will die with them. Are you threatening me? Tang Mao said unmoved. If you don't want the people in this town to die, get out of the way. Yushishi knew that she was no match for Tang Mao, and she didn't want to fight him. After all, every time these moths died, she would feel her heart bleeding. So, it's better to avoid it if you can. Little Yanji. However, just as Yushishi finished speaking, Yanji suddenly merged into Tang Mao's body. Then, Tang Mao suddenly jumped up to the middle of the air. At the same time, a cyan constellation appeared, and the wings of wind opened instantly. Skyflame funeral. For this stupid moth girl, Tang Mao felt it necessary to let her understand one thing. If you want to negotiate with me, you have to see if she has enough moths. Originally, the sky was full of moths, but at the moment, when the fire rain fell, many moths instantly disappeared in the cyan fire rain. Although this is only a part, for Yushishi, it also made her heart ache to the point of bleeding. Bei Hongfei, who was standing aside, was stunned when he saw Tang Mao's speed of describing high-level magic, which was almost the speed of his own mid-level magic. He suddenly felt how stupid it was to provoke this teacher during the day. Although the other party was also a high-level magician, the two of them were not at all high-level. No, stop it. Yushishi watched her moths fall from the sky, some dead and some injured, and she panicked instantly. At this moment, she had completely lost her arrogant look just now. If I guess correctly, there should be many moths trapped by natural enemies in this forest, right? Tang Mao looked indifferent, and the flames in his hand stopped outputting, and the rain of fire stopped. However, with just one wave of sweeping, nearly a quarter of Yushishi's moths were already dead or injured. How do you know? Yushishi knew that she must have failed today, and she wanted to give up the moth in front of her. There are still many opportunities for revenge, but the most important thing now is to find a way to rescue the trapped moth. However, before she had time to run, she heard Tang Mao's devilish voice. How do I know? Is it necessary to tell you? Tang Mao played with the flame in his hand and looked at Yushishi with amusement. Bei Hongfei on the side said weakly, Teacher, you look like a villain now. Bei Hongfei, do you want to stay in school? Teacher, it's the students' fault. You can't be merciful to the demons that harm people. Bei Hongfei changed his face in seconds. Of course, he was still reluctant to hurt Yushishi in his heart. After all, such a cute girl doesn't look like a bad demon. What do you want? Yushishi asked weakly. She knew that Tang Mao didn't want to kill her. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this at all. With his strength, she was no match at all. But he didn't do it, which means that the man who made her grit her teeth had other purposes. Take me to see the moon moth phoenix. When Yushishi heard this, she suddenly struggled from her weak mood. She looked at Tang Mao with a vigilant face and said, "How do you know this? I know so many things. Is it necessary to tell you?" Yushishi didn't want to resist, but after mentioning the totem moon moth phoenix, she instantly turned into a demon and rushed towards Tang Mao. "Don't want to know where the moon moth phoenix is. I want you to die with me," Yushishi roared, and then countless silks appeared on her body. These silks appeared very quickly, and in a blink of an eye, they formed a huge blue pupa. Although he knew that this woman was a guardian, he didn't expect that this guy would be so crazy. He just mentioned it. "Is it necessary to look desperate? Question mark. Boom. For a moment, the heavenly tribulation fire and the blue Luan fire near Tang Mao burned at the same time. Even without casting any magic, the temperature nearby was raised by unknown times. Although Yushishi's pupa was wrapped tightly, it was still useless in front of the flames, and was easily dissolved. The most important thing was that she wanted to fight desperately, but was suppressed in midair by Tang Mao's space magic. "Stupid woman, why are you crazy? I'm the totem leader and I will not hurt it. Why are you so excited?" Tang Mao explained, while suppressing Yushishi, who was about to fight desperately. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 415 Compromise. Yushishi paused after hearing this, and her anger slowly dissipated. However, because of Tang Mao's spatial suppression, she couldn't move at all. Tang Mao stopped when he saw the pupa around her dissipate. Then he said, "Are you crazy, woman? If I wanted to murder the totem, I could just let you go and follow you secretly. With your strength, it's impossible for you to detect me. Why should I trust you?" Although Tang Mao's words made sense, she didn't trust him at all, because he killed so many of her moths right away. "Do you know the totem black snake?" "Yes. Since it lives in the mountains, she also knows some things." Even Yushishi wanted to find this powerful totem, to seek some shelter for the moon moth phoenix. However, the black snake only appeared once in Hangzhou and then disappeared. She had nowhere to find it. The moon moth phoenix is not a vulnerable group, but the time it has awakened is too short. "I can summon the black snake." She said it was okay to know, but she was afraid that this woman only had breasts and no brains. "Teacher, you are not talking about the snake god that appeared in Hangzhou, right?" Bei Hongfei asked with stars in his eyes. The matter of the Hangzhou snake god is almost known to everyone in China. He didn't expect that his teacher was not only powerful, but also knew the snake god. A real thigh. However, Tang Mao obviously didn't mean to pay attention to him at this time. The little moth girl in front of him is about to become his pet. A rare pet and a tiger child. Is it possible to become a choice question? "You didn't lie to me?" Yushishi asked hesitantly. "Except for the totem beast, what do you have that is worth my deception?" Tang Mao said very reluctantly. Yushishi was full of contempt. Since this bastard appeared, his eyes have been sticking to her body. Now he tells her that it is just for the totem beast. Why does it feel like I'm more attractive than the totem? However, if you can find the totem black snake and get its help, then it is not impossible to bear the humiliation. "Okay, I believe you. But if you lie to me, Yushishi wanted to say something harsh, but after thinking about it carefully, she had almost no threat to the man in front of her. "No need for you. You are no threat to me." Tang Mao spoke directly without waiting for her to finish. Yushishi could only hum unwillingly. At this time, Tang Mao said again, "Let your moths return all the energy absorbed here. These people don't say that these people should die. Not everyone likes moths. This woman is simply unreasonable. Although the moon moth phoenix saved you, it can't let everyone like moths, right?" In fact, Tang Mao herself doesn't like this kind of thing. Of course, it's also thanks to Yushishi's appearance that is just like the one in the painting, so ethereal and unreal. Otherwise, she would have been baptized by fire and thunder now. Now Tang Mao is at the mercy of others, and she is just a fish on the chopping board. What's the point of saying anything? She could only choose to give up the revenge on the people in this town unwillingly. Then Yushishi recalled the moths. Without those moths blocking the water veins immediately became unobstructed. This mission was also successfully completed. As for whether the students contributed, Tang Mao didn't care. After all, these things were not something that students could handle. After completing the mission, Tang Mao led the team back to Mingsu Academy. Yushishi stayed here because she didn't take action against the villagers. After all, Tang Mao couldn't take her back to Mingsu Academy. Even if she was arranged, she would be arranged to go to Finio City. After returning to the academy, Tang Mao received his excellent graduation badge, and at the same time, he also received his reward. Moreover, he successfully got the hand of emoting from Dean Zero. Although this is not a high-level defensive magic tool, it can convert all the destructive damage of the elemental attributes that threaten the holder into other types of elemental attribute damage. It can also be called an element converter, with a power close to the same. Tang Mao, who already has the power to absorb the power of other elemental fields, has a magic weapon that can convert elemental energy, which is simply like adding wings to a tiger. The magic that the opponent hits is absorbed by him and then used, plus the explosion damage of his own thunder. Even if it is a serious monarch level demon, he has the power to fight. After completing the task and getting the badge, magic weapon and a lot of magic resources, Tang Mao left the academy. Of course, he didn't just say goodbye to Mingsu Academy. There will always be a time when Dean Zero, the big guy, will be useful. So when he left, Tang Mao said that he will always be a member of Mingsu Academy. When Dean Zero heard this, he was not very moved, but told Tang Mao that he always needed to leave some of the good things here for his younger brothers and sisters. People, be content with what you have. This is very embarrassing. Is he the kind of person who only recognizes things? Will the 3-step tower not be fragrant after awakening a new magic system? After getting the badges and resources, he hadn't had time to digest them, and AI-Tutu took him around to play. For him, time is extremely precious, but Big Bunny said that he only wanted to have it for a week. Looking at his little rabbit's cute and well-behaved appearance, Tang Mao really couldn't bear to refuse, and finally he had to agree. In the next few days, although happy, it was also tragic. Tang Mao said that his old waist couldn't bear this stimulation. Big Bunny's strength is really getting stronger and stronger, and he is as strong as ever. There is no way, no matter how long it takes, the biggest consumption is only himself, even if there is a constant supply of tonic soup every day, but it can't stand being squeezed every day. A week later, Tang Mao left the magic city again. Returning to Tongxiang, he came here naturally to find Yushishi, the little hoof. Not long after he arrived in Tongxiang, Ko Kinkin, who was still here for a search, came running. "Teacher, someone is looking for you." Ko Kinkin was still so well behaved and cute, and greeted Tang Mao respectfully when she saw him. He also liked this kind of sensible girl next door. Of course, she was very simple. This little girl was a studious person. He would take her in his family and let her learn the water formation from Dean Zero. It was very nice, no matter how he thought about it. Chapter 416. So you are Tang Mao, teacher? Ko Kinkin looked at Tang Mao, who was laughing foolishly, and called him softly. "Ah." Tang Mao paused, then said awkwardly, "I just thought of something interesting. Little girl, why are you still here? Is this your teacher?" A man in casual clothes with a Magic Association badge on his chest suddenly appeared here, looked Tang Mao up and down, and asked with some disbelief. There was no way. Tang Mao looked too young, and it was indeed very suspicious to be a teacher at Mingsu Academy. "Yes, didn't you say you had something important to find him?" "Teacher, they are from the Research and Administration Committee of the Magic Association," Ko Kinkin said. Upon hearing this, Tang Mao immediately understood the purpose of these people. However, he was curious that Yushishi should still be outside this town. Why did they come to find him again? "I'm Kalingxi, a member of the Research and Administration Committee of the East China Sea Magic Association, which is directly affiliated to the Asia's highest magic association. I heard that you have met the moth girl we have been tracking before." Seeing that Tang Mao had no intention of speaking, the tall man asked, "I have met her." Tang Mao did not deny it and answered truthfully. "Then why didn't you inform us?" Don't you know that the moth girl is extremely important to our research company? The man looked very unhappy and then said, you have one day to find the moth girl and bring her to the research company, otherwise, fuck you. Without waiting for the idiot to finish, Tang Mao directly sent a series of civilized words. After cursing for a while, he said, get out of here before I get angry and start a fight. What's your attitude? We belong to the Supreme Magic Association in Asia. Any Asian magician has the obligation to cooperate with our research and investigation. I now ask you to find that moth girl, otherwise don't blame us for being rude. Kellings's eyebrows were twisted together, and he said angrily, you are so young, and yet you despise our magic association. You should know that our research institute has the power to directly deprive a mage of his cultivation. I think you are crazy, idiot. Deprive me of my cultivation. You can try. A flash of thunder appeared in Tang Mao's hand, and then the thunder seal bombarded the 3 people from the research institute. Boom boom. Although it was just a thunder seal, the 3.5 times of thunder magic damage itself, plus the 12 times of the purple sky field, the thunder magic has 42 times the explosive power. In this case, even if it was just a thunder seal, the damage was close to the output of high level magic. Although the 3 of them used magic tools in time, the bombardment close to high level magic still made the 3 of them twitch. You dare to fight with our research institute? Kellingsley injured the pain and widened his eyes, including the 2 men he brought. They all looked a little bit unbelievable. If you keep talking nonsense, I will blow you into charcoal. With great contributions, why should Tang Mao give face to these small characters? It can be said that, as long as it is not for the few forbidden spells in the country that need to be given face, at least he should be a great speaker. As for others, if you want to ask for face from him, it would be asking for trouble. Let's go. Kellingsley led 2 men and limped away from here quickly. They were all wounded, and their clothes were tattered. They were completely different from the arrogant luck before. After the battle, Kaiokenkin dared to run over. At this moment, Kaiokenkin's eyes were shining with countless little stars, and the admiration was undisguised. Wow, teacher, how are you so powerful? How did you practice? Kaiokenkin is not very strong, but she has good eyesight. What Tang Mao just used was obviously a beginner's thunder seal, but its power is even stronger than that of a mid-level magic. It's outrageous. It depends on the person. Teacher, I'm born strong. Tang Mao said seriously. Kaiokenkin pouted. Although she was very unconvinced, she couldn't find a reason to refute it. After all, it was a fact. Some people are born with outstanding talents, and they are destined to be extraordinary at birth, while some people are just ordinary. Don't say that they are born with spiritual seeds and soul seeds. Even if they are born with talents, they don't have them. And she is the 3-no industry. By the way, you have been here for a long time. Do you know the operation of the entire water circulation formation? Looking at the lost look of his pitifully few students, Tang Mao changed the subject. I know the general idea. I also want to learn more here. If I can master this formation, I think I will become a respected magician. Unfortunately, I'm just a student, and the instructors don't seem to tell me the essence easily. Kaiokenkin said with a face full of resentment. Tang Mao was not surprised by this. Then he said, are you a water mage? Yes, teacher, my major is water. Kaiokenkin nodded in response. I can ask Dean Zio to teach you this craft, but after you learn it, you have to follow me in the future. Seeing that this well-behaved and cute student took the bait, Tang Mao continued to deceive. Kaiokenkin's eyes lit up when she heard it, and she didn't care whether she was deceived or not. After all, the water circulation formation is now officially operating in Tangxiang. Kaiokenkin has also seen how powerful this water formation that uses water veins to protect the land over villages. Although it is not as good as the absolute defense of the core of the earth, it is already a remarkable creation to be able to block ordinary demons. If she learns the arrangement of this formation, then let alone hanging out with Tang Mao, she would not refuse, even if she was asked to be Tang Mao's mistress. Teacher, can you really ask Dean Zio to teach me? Kaiokenkin said excitedly. I'll just talk to him, it's no big deal. Tang Mao smiled and introduced himself. You should know that your teacher is the #1 in the government. How can he not agree to this small request? Ah. As Tang Mao finished speaking, Kaokinkin suddenly exclaimed excitedly, "Why are you making such a fuss?" Because he was caught off guard, the little girl suddenly called out like this, which made his head buzz. "Teacher, I'm sorry, I was too excited." Holding back her excitement, Kaokinkin said again, "So you are Tang Mao, teacher. No wonder you are so strong. Thank you for giving me such a good opportunity. I will follow you in the future. Anyway, I have nowhere to go." Tang Mao pouted and said, "Why do you feel so awkward when you say this? It seems that you are willing to follow me because no one wants you." Ah, no. Kaokinkin also realized that it seemed wrong to say this and hurriedly shook her hands to explain, okay, when you have learned well, report to my territory, you know where it is." Tang Mao can still understand this kind of fangirl's madness. After all, he has experienced it once when he just returned to school. "I know, after learning well, I will definitely set up an identical water circulation formation in the teacher's territory." Kaokinkin naturally knows about Tang Mao. She is one of the loyal fans, and she admires Tang Mao from the bottom of her heart. After all, Tang Mao is a legend of Mingsu Academy. Now, not only can she learn the formation from Tang Mao, but she can also follow Tang Mao. This is simply a gift from God. Dean Zhao happened to be in Tangxiang. He came to see his achievements. Tang Mao did not mean to be polite. He found him with his little fan Kaokinkin. When Dean Zhao saw Tang Mao coming, he always felt that this kid had no good intentions. When he heard that he came for the formation he had just studied, he blew his beard and glared. However, Dean Zhao is a selfish person, so he agreed to teach Kaokinkin. Moreover, what he studied will be put into Mingsu Academy in the future. Contributing to society is his original intention. After dealing with these things, Tang Mao went deep into the forest. P.S. It's another day of 10,000 updates. How many updates will be updated tomorrow depends on the subscription data that will be displayed. Chapter 417 Yushishi. Did I ever say I would look after your house? As Tang Mao came to the depths, suddenly a group of blue moths flapped their wings and slowly flew out from the deep forest. They were obviously afraid of Tang Mao and only dared to stay 10 meters away from him. The moths became more and more, gradually outlining a graceful curve. Suddenly, the moths scattered nearby and quickly flew into the forest. In the place where the moths just gathered, there was a woman wearing a hooded linen dress. Her face was hidden under the hat. When she slowly raised her head, her bright and beautiful eyes were revealed. It must be said that, although this woman has mutated, her appearance is still very attractive. "Let's go. I'll take you to see the black snake." Tang Mao didn't waste any words and directly stated his intention. "You're taking me out like this?" Yushishi looked at him in surprise. Obviously, this was something she didn't expect. After all, the people from the research institute have been searching for her all the time. Then what's wrong? Tang Mao looked at Yushishi in confusion, not quite understanding what she meant. "But, the people from the research institute are trying to catch me. If you take me out like this, and run into them." Seeing her hesitant and worried look, Tang Mao said, "I just beat up a few people from the research institute. It's not a big deal." "What did you say?" Yushishi was stunned when she heard this. Although she is indeed an alien, she is also a person. She also knows about some forces, such as the research institute, which has a very high social status. Being targeted by such people, she has been living in hiding. But, the force that she seems to be so high and mighty was beaten by this hateful man in front of her? That's right, in Yushishi's eyes, Tang Mao belongs to the kind of evil person. After all, she has no relatives, since she was a child, and Feniemo is a relative who has grown up with her. But before, Tang Mao killed a large number of people in one shot. It makes her angry just thinking about it. But in the face of absolute strength, she can do nothing, and the most important thing is that he actually knows about the totem. This made her very unwilling, but she had to bear it. What's so surprising? It's just a branch of the Magic Association. Even if it's someone from the Magic Association, I will beat him up if I'm unhappy. Tang Mao boasted with 9 points of water. Of course, since he pinched the death god of the Holy Court, he was indeed a little arrogant. However, it was still because of his strength. If he had just left that small village, he would definitely not be so arrogant. Yushishi didn't trust him very much, but Tangmao obviously didn't mean to explain. In the end, she had no choice but to follow him. Returning to Phenio City, Tangmao took Yushishi to Muningsu. Muningsu rented a suburban house with a courtyard in Phenio City, which is also the gathering place of the current Tang family members. However, although the surname here is Tang, after arriving and taking a general look, it was discovered that the members here are mainly those who used to be in the Mu family. After various changes in the Mu family, those who are still with Muzoyan and Muningsu are basically the most trustworthy people. As for those who came here for the sake of reputation, there were not many for the time being. If a clan wanted to be established, it would be impossible to attract mages without its own territory, resources, or generous conditions. However, it didn't matter. Everything could be taken care of slowly. After seeing Tangmao, several people stood up, including Muningsu's old father Muzoyan. Tangmao looked at Muzoyan, then supported him and said, "Uncle, don't be so polite to me. From now on, treat this place as your own home." Although Muzoyan was a bit more powerful, after all, he had given his daughter to someone else. And whether he was responsible or not was another matter. It was naturally better not to be respectful to this cheap father-in-law. Moreover, no matter what kind of person he was, at least to him, the two were strangers. This seemed to be the first time they met. Muzoyan didn't know anyone else, but he naturally knew Tangmao. Moreover, he also knew clearly that his precious daughter had achieved what she has now with the help of the man in front of him. It would be a lie to say that he was not grateful. Moreover, Tangmao was probably the only one who dared to support them and go against the Mu family. So, how could he dare to put on airs? Tangmao did not continue to argue with him about this, but looked at Muningsu and said, "I found a good helper for you. With her, you don't need to spend a lot of money to recruit mages for patrols in the future." Yushishi was stunned. Didn't she come here to see the black snake? How did she suddenly become a guard? Muningsu looked at Yushishi and asked in confusion, "Are you talking about her?" It's no wonder that Muningsu was a little confused, but there was no fluctuation of magic energy in Yushishi, although it is possible that her cultivation is higher than hers. But judging from Yushishi's age, it is obviously not the case. She is the same as Bora, but she is not a blood race. Tangmao did not see her doubts and explained. At this time, Yushishi, whose strength was questioned, said with some dissatisfaction, "Did I say I would guard your house? You have no choice. Guard your house for me. I can protect you and prevent you from being arrested by the people of the research institute." For Yushishi, there was nothing to discuss at all. It can be said that from the moment they met, this woman could not escape the fate of being exploited. Of course, she can also implement anti-exploitation, but it depends on whether she has the interest after all. A forced melon is not sweet. Yushishi was a little angry when she heard what Tangmao said. She was angry that this man seemed to know everything, and the feeling of being controlled by her fate really made her very uncomfortable. However, she did not dare to show it. Because, if this was true, then she would be equivalent to having a golden ticket to avoid death. She didn't even have to think about being captured by the people of the research institute. It was destined to be a tragic result. She didn't want to die, and she didn't want to be a guinea pig. "Just make your decision. I have no objection," Muningsu said in a calm voice, and then sat back and studied the construction problem. Yushishi looked at Tangmao hesitantly and said, "Can you really protect me, Bora?" Tangmao was too lazy to explain and called out directly. As soon as he finished speaking, Bora suddenly appeared behind Yushishi. He said grimly, "Little moth girl, my master wants to protect you, and no one can touch you." In the battle on the Parthenon, the power of the devil made Bora admire him so much that he could trust Tangmao mysteriously. Chapter 418 Moon Snow Town. Bora's sudden appearance gave Yushishi a fright. Her strength is not weak, and ordinary high-level mages are not her opponents at all. She was suppressed by Tangmao only because her flames were too fierce. Otherwise, even a team of high-level mages might not be able to deal with her. After all, her moths are not only able to fly into the fire, their combat ability is also very strong. I've gone too far, and as for her own strength, she is also at the level of a great commander. However, after coming here for so long, she didn't react at all to this guy who suddenly appeared. There is only one chance. If you don't want to guard my house, then leave now. Even if you come back to beg me in the future, it will be useless. Tang Mao knew that Yushishi would definitely choose to stay here, but how could he show that he couldn't live without her? The kind of indifference he wanted to show. In this way, the little moth girl will be obedient in the future. You said you would take me to see where the totem black snake is. Yushishi was really moved. When she came, she also let the moths observe this place. The place is beautiful and large. If they can live here quietly, it would be nice. However, if they just bow their heads and accept their fate, they always feel wronged. Especially, the aggressive gaze of the man in front of her really didn't know how to hide it at all, and she felt that she might be led astray. After thinking about it, she still couldn't make a choice. In addition, she never forgot the purpose of coming here, so she asked a question. She had already thought about it. If Tang Mao really summoned the black snake, she would stay here. With the protection of the black snake, then both she and the moon moth phoenix would have a guarantee in the future, right? You only know about breast augmentation, right? The black snake has always been on my shoulder, can't you see it? Tang Mao's frivolous words came out, and several people were embarrassed. Especially when Muningsu saw the old members of the Mu family looking at her, she felt even more ashamed. However, Tang Mao was just like that. What could she do? She could only look like she didn't care about it. Yushishi felt that she was offended again, but when she looked at Tang Mao's shoulder, she found that there was a mini snake on his shoulder. Is this the totem black snake? Although she knew that the totem had some power to grow or shrink, the snake in front of her was really ordinary. Mu Zoyan, who was sitting on the side, looked at his daughter with a calm face and asked, Ningsu, what is the totem black snake that Patriarch Tang mentioned? The other Mu family members also looked at Mu Ningsu with some confusion. Except for Mu Ningsu, no one else really knew about the totem black snake here. As for knowing the existence of Bora, it was because they learned about it when a few small families that were attached to the Mu family came to cause trouble. It was the snake god who once saved Hang Sao. Mu Ningsu did not hide it. She was waiting to tell everyone after the family was established. But now that everyone knows, she just said it naturally. What? At this time, the black snake that was questioned by Yushishi also exuded its terrifying pressure. In an instant, except for Tang Mao, almost everyone present felt a sense of oppression that made them breathless. Exclamation mark. It was the first time in history that Yushishi felt such a terrible momentum. She now completely believed that Tang Mao really had the ability to protect her peace, and also believed that the totem and this man did have an inexplicable relationship. But she was not very clear about what kind of relationship it was. However, she did not believe in the totem leader's statement. Okay, put away your pressure. Seeing that everyone nearby, except Bala, had pale faces, Tang Mao said. Hearing this, the black snake immediately put away its magical power. It was only a moment, but the sense of pressure that made them terrified almost entangled everyone's heart. Looking at the dazed Yushishi, Tang Mao said impatiently, little goblin, don't test my patience. I'm willing, but I have a condition. Yushishi responded quickly. Why do you want to negotiate with me? Tang Mao crossed his arms and said with a smile. Yushishi thought about it. It seemed to be true. Although she had a talent that allowed demons to invade at will, but without the black snake to suppress it, what demons dared to break into Tang Mao's territory? After hesitating for a moment, she said again, don't you want to see the moon moth phoenix? If you want it for its own good, it's best to bring it here. In this way, it can be an immortal totem. You can't protect it. Yushishi was speechless and had to lower her posture and said, I beg you to agree to a request. Is this okay? Isn't it just not to hurt your moths? As long as they do what they should do, I can guarantee that they will not suffer any damage in my territory. But you also need to control them. If something that shouldn't happen happens, I promise to turn them into nothingness overnight. Tang Mao never liked to spoil such a proud woman. Yushishi also promised that she would be able to control the moths. Moreover, from being invited at the beginning, it became a request unconsciously. Moreover, it was too much for her to be grateful. However, no matter what, Yushishi also had a stable place to stay. There was no need to worry about being captured by the people of the research institute. After all, what could the research institute do with the protection of 2 monarch level fathers? After she agreed, Tang Mao asked Zunu and Yanji to go to Tongxiang with her to solve Yushishi's natural enemy. Although the opponent was a commander level spider, it was simply a world of ice and fire. When it came to Yanji and Zunu, it was over before it even started. And similarly, with the help of Lin Junction in the past few days, a large town was successfully built. After the construction was completed, the town was named Yuxu Town. He did not use his own name to join it, but chose Tang Yu's. This was the last respect for the first wife. The remaining Yushishi also showed her usefulness. The Kinj led by her had already settled on Fiayu Mountain, which was the barrier mountain to the west of Yuxu Town. This mountain itself was a very good line of defense. Now that there were Kinj living there was no need to build sentries. Those Kinj everywhere would form an impenetrable cordon. Of course, there were also Kinj searching in other places, but the number was not large. But this was only the current situation. In the future, when there was no more damage, it would naturally increase. Chapter 419. Moving the pupa of the moon moth phoenix. Especially in Yuxu Town, where there are totems and aliens, it is even more impossible to be peaceful. After a few days, the people from the research institute came to the door again, and it seems that they are still here for the moth girl. This time, they also brought helpers. Unfortunately, they walked to the place where the totem black snake was, and they were driven away without even entering the door. Because Yushishi's moth was floating around, it naturally told her about this immediately. After learning that the people from the research institute were sent away, she completely believed in Tang Mao. Moreover, she also liked this place from the bottom of her heart. The only thing that made her dissatisfied was probably Tang Mao, who was shameless. But because this place gave her enough sense of security, she took Tang Mao to find the location of the totem moon moth phoenix. Yushishi didn't want to move the moon moth phoenix so early. To be honest, she didn't fully trust Tang Mao. But Tang Mao told her that the moon moth phoenix had been found before. It's just that the person who found it didn't go deep into it, and he had a companion. The person who didn't want to disturb the totem might not harm the moon moth phoenix, but of course he didn't have a chance. As for that person's companion, it's not certain. Yushishi didn't believe it at first, but after Tang Mao told her the approximate location of the moon moth phoenix, Yushishi believed it. Although it would take some time to find it, even if we knew it was there, doesn't this mean that the location of the moon moth phoenix is not really safe? After that, Tang Mao followed Yushishi and came to a special water forest in Nanling. After arriving here, they rushed for a while and came to an empty forest. I saw a huge oval pupa hanging in the middle of the clear pool, and its shadow was also projected into the clear pool. The green giant pupa seemed to be completely suspended between the night sky and the star paintings in the water, but if you look closely, you will find that some silk-like silk is supported in a ray-like shape, and the other end is wrapped around the tall trees around, which means that this green giant pupa is actually hanging lightly, and this kind of scene is indeed rare to see. The moonlight and the starlight protect the giant cyan pupa, which also seems to absorb the essence of nature, like a beating cyan heart. It's hard to move now. Even I can't do anything. Yushishi looked at the sleeping moon moth phoenix in front of her and said softly. In fact, until now, Yushishi still didn't want Tang Mao to disturb the sleep of the moon moth phoenix. Tang Mao directly summoned a killing jade. When the jade emerged, the giant cyan pupa emitted a ray of light. After seeing this scene, Yushishi was stunned. Put away your useless little thoughts. I told you a long time ago that I'm the totem master. The situation in front of him was actually unexpected. However, Tang Mao has a strong ability to accept. Even though this is the first time he has encountered such a situation, he still has the ability to talk nonsense. Yushishi has encountered this situation before. After listening to Tang Mao's words and thinking of the totem black snake, she felt that maybe Tang Mao was telling the truth. He is not just a totem guardian, but maybe he is really the master of the totem? Looking at the fooled Yushishi, Tang Mao's mouth corner slightly raised. At this time, a ray of green light merged into the killing jade, and then a strange force returned. Then the huge pupa shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye and finally floated in front of Tang Mao. Tang Mao held it in his hand, and the killing jade trembled slightly. A message inexplicably appeared in his mind. That is, the moon moth phoenix urgently needs to sleep again, and now it needs to be taken away from here and settle in a new place. Only in this way can it wake up as soon as possible. If the green light cannot stay after it disperses, it means that it may need another 7 months to wake up again. Tang Mao said it was too much. However, there was no time to complain at this time. Pulling the confused Yushishi, he rushed back to Yuxu town at full speed. Tang Mao's speed was so fast that, even if it was not the fastest in this world, it could be called the top. Even though the distance here was very far, he still arrived at Yuxu town before the green light dissipated with his full firepower and space teleportation. After finding the place to place the totem, Tang Mao also lay down with a look of exhaustion. On this way, he brought Yushishi, the little hoof, and the pupa of the moon moth phoenix with all his strength. The magic power of the wind, space, and shadow systems was almost exhausted. Fortunately, Yushishi's help was good enough elasticity and softness. Otherwise, it might not be possible to come back so early. Yushishi was so angry that she gritted her teeth all the way, but every time she heard Tang Mao say, if the moon moth phoenix could not return to his territory before the green light dissipated, it would have to sleep on the spot. Of course, he was talking nonsense, but she just believed it, because she had witnessed a scene she had never seen before. This is also the main reason why she let Tang Mao, this bastard, do whatever he wanted along the way. After resting for a while, Tang Mao was a little used to asking for some benefits. He felt the elasticity and softness along the way, but it made him feel uncomfortable all over, and he urgently needed to taste it. Get out of here. Now that they have returned here, how can Yushishi do what he wants? Although she was living under someone else's roof, Yushishi was also very smart. In a few days, she established a deep friendship with Muningsu. This was also the reason why her temper gradually worsened. After being seriously rejected, Tang Mao had to give up. Of course, he was not afraid that Muningsu would know anything, but as an excellent warm-hearted man, he did not like to force things. After standing up and slapping Yushishi, Tang Mao said disdainfully, "You woman, you really don't admit it. After pulling up your pants, you Yushishi didn't expect that this bastard would dare to hit her? And what do you mean by not admitting it? Question mark? She had been wronged enough along the way, okay. Exclamation mark. It feels good." When Yushishi was about to fight, Tang Mao flashed away. Although the magic was almost exhausted, it was still enough to restore a basic shadow skill at this time. Yushishi was so angry that she almost exploded. Although she felt protected and had Muningsu's friendship, she always felt that Tang Mao was crossing the line more and more. However, although she was bullied by this bastard, she still stared at Tang Mao's back and silently said thank you in her heart. After all, she didn't have to worry about being troubled by the people from the research institute, nor did she have to worry about Moth Phoenix being hurt. The safety level in Yuxu town is definitely the best in the whole of China. Chapter 420 Desert Journey. After finding the totem moon moth phoenix, Tang Mao stayed in Yuxu town for a few more days. Muningsu worked so hard, so he naturally needed to comfort her. At the cost of her kidney, Muningsu also got the best nourishment after that. He received a call from Lingling and prepared to go to the Taklamakan desert, so Tang Mao returned to the magic city. After returning to the magic city, Tang Mao did not have time to go back to the apartment to see Munigio who had returned, and went directly to the airport with Lingling. Flying from Shanghai basically means flying from the easternmost part of the country to the westernmost part, across the entire country. However, only by flying like this can you realize how vast China's territory is. If it were in Europe, this distance would have passed through more than a dozen countries. However, because the road passed through the demon zone, the speed of the plane was extremely fast. In less than 3 hours, the plane landed at the Terim airport, which is closest to the Taklamakan desert. The Taklamakan desert is located in the middle of the Terim basin. Although the entire desert is a little bit smaller than the Sahara in Africa, For humans, this area buried by yellow sand is a completely strange, unknown and dangerous new world. The only ones who can really survive in the desert are the demons living there. The most important thing is that there is a top demon tribe here, of which there are nearly 1 million demons. As for the middle tribe, there are dozens, and the small tribes are countless. It can be said that this place belongs to a demon empire. After arriving here, Lingling decided the route to walk, and Tang Mao found a camel from the summoning plane. Although it is only a slave level, it is extremely suitable for walking in the desert. When they arrived in the desert area, there was no obstacle because of the camel captured by the summoning plane, and they moved forward easily. Along the way, the two of them had smooth sailing. Even if they encountered demons, Tang Mao could quickly take Lingling out of the battle. This was also a benefit of the two coming here. Of course, there were disadvantages. If Tang Mao's magic energy was exhausted, there would be only one outcome for the two of them. That was death. The wind system was paired with the space system. When Tang Mao encountered obstacles from demons, he did not want to fight at all. He held Lingling's soft little body and flew hundreds of meters away in an instant, and then flew to a distance of thousands of meters in the blink of an eye. Ordinary demons were directly skipped. Of course, he could choose to kill his way out, but there were so many demons here. Even if he was exhausted, he would not have the chance to kill them all. Moreover, in a large tribe, who knows what level of existence there are. It's okay not to attract the attention of the other party, but once he is provoked, here, even if he can't use the demon system, he doesn't think he can leave safely. Lingling, do you want to take a break? He had been rushing for nearly half a day, although he was fine. But the little cutie in his arms was still an ordinary little lolly. Even if she was held by him, it was not comfortable to sleep in the open air. He stopped immediately and asked, "No, I didn't waste any effort. Besides, you use the space system to isolate the sand and dust, don't you think I don't know?" Lingling didn't feel any sense of adventure at all. Although she knew that Tang Mao was doing this for her own good, it was a bit boring. Nonsense, how can your little body withstand the sand and dust here? Touching the soft body, Tang Mao said with concern. Damn six hooligan. Don't touch me, Lingling said in shame and anger. It was okay to touch her once or twice on the way, but it became worse when he stopped. It's too much. If I don't show my power, do you really think that lolly is ignorant? No, I'm just holding you up, afraid that you will fall down. Tang Mao responded seriously. Go to hell. Lingling naturally didn't believe what Tang Mao said. This old man is very bad. Every time he takes advantage of me, he always has a bunch of well-reasoned excuses. Hoo hoo. Just when the two were bickering, the wind suddenly became stronger for no reason. Although Lingling did not feel the invasion of the wind, she was not blind. Immediately, the two looked in the direction of the wind at the same time, and suddenly found that the blue sky, which was as pure as a gem, was covered by a large group of turbid yellow clouds. At first glance, it seemed that a static sky curtain was hanging, but if you look at it a few more times, you will find that they are slowly covering it. Is this a sandstorm? Tang Mao said in confusion. No, that's not right. This is a dust storm devil grasshopper. Lingling said with a pale face. In the face of this situation, the brain is generally not very useful. After all, there are too many of these things. The dust storm devil grasshoppers should be the most terrifying thing in the Taklamakan desert known to people. They are as overwhelming as sandstorms, but the destructive power of sandstorms is simply weaker than them. The places where the dust storm devil grasshoppers are posted are horrifying and terrifying. There is no grass, and bones are everywhere, stretching for thousands of miles. Tang Mao also has a headache, but in this situation, he can only choose to force his way through. If he escapes, wouldn't he have walked this road in vain? He is not interested in staying in such a place where no one is shitting. After the little flame girl merged, she summoned the snow girl to assist. The snow girl grabbed Tang Mao, and Tang Mao held Lingling. The power of fire was surrounding below, and frost was all over the top. Then the snow girl rushed into the dust storm devil grasshopper storm at the fastest speed. Swoosh. The speed was extremely fast. Moreover, under the power of the two elemental darlings, the yellow sand below was extremely hot, while the air above was cold and piercing. Although the sandstorm formed by the dust storm grasshoppers had extremely strong winds, it was nothing when it encountered the crushing ice and fire element. Sure. In one go, Tangmao rushed out of the dust storm grasshoppers. After they rushed past, the dust storm grasshoppers did not turn back to chase them, because the feeling just now was so terrifying. Whether it was the burning power of the flames or the freezing power of the frost, the dust storm grasshoppers suffered heavy losses. Although it was only a short charge, both Yanji and Zunu consumed a lot of energy. After all, they had passed through the dust storm grasshoppers. It is conceivable that there must be a huge number of dust storm grasshoppers that could condense a sandstorm. Tangmao took out the milk powder for his 2 daughters, distributed it, and then let them go back to rest. After calling back Yanji and Zunu, Tangmao looked at Ling Ling in his arms. Ling Ling happened to be looking at him. After seeing him looking at her, Ling Ling's eyes flickered and said, "I didn't expect that the dreaded dust storm grasshopper is just like this." Just like this? Tangmao felt a headache for a while, and then said, "Little girl, do you know that Yanji and Zunu almost consumed a huge amount of magic energy just now, and forcibly exerted their own domains in the wind domain they formed, and I came to coordinate, so they rushed over smoothly. If he didn't have enough control, if they didn't have telepathy, they might not only fail to rush over, but also the ice and fire might cancel each other out. If they cancel each other out, what can the elemental darling do? What can the destruction mage do? After all, she could not escape the fate of being torn apart by the dust storm grasshoppers. You don't even let me experience it. How would I know?" Ling Ling pouted and said. Tangmao paused, then he understood what this clever little girl wanted to do. Didn't she just want to walk by herself and experience the horror of the desert? Although it wouldn't be a big problem to let her walk by herself. But how could Tangmao bear to do that to such a cute little girl? You just need to use your brain. What experience? How far is the holy land of fire from us? Tangmao gave up Ling Ling's dream of leaving his warm embrace and then asked again. Chapter 421 Lost Direction. Ling Ling pouted and snorted in dissatisfaction. Then she said awkwardly, "We have been walking in the desert for so long, and your speed is uneven. I don't know the exact distance now." Although she didn't get lost, she was really confused about the exact distance. Tangmao was silent for a while after hearing this. This is very embarrassing. Although the two of them were in the right direction, it seems that this is only temporary, right? After all, it is in the desert. Tangmao can't be sure whether it will go wrong. The same is true for Ling Ling. Seeing Tangmao didn't speak, Ling Ling said with some shame, "I'm sorry." Ling Ling really felt ashamed. After all, since she partnered with Tangmao, she has always been responsible for using her brain. But today, she was negligent. Although it can't be blamed on her, it is obviously not her style to evade responsibility. The most important thing is that, if the two of them lost their way in the desert, the ending would be tragic. Ling Ling couldn't even imagine it. Tangmao would not blame Ling Ling, although it would be easy to get lost if they continued walking like this, and they might die of starvation or thirst, because they had no food or water. But how could Tangmao die of starvation or thirst? "It's okay, I'll take care of everything." Tangmao comforted Ling Ling, who was a little depressed. Ling Ling saw that he was not angry, and he didn't blame her, but comforted her. For a moment, she felt even more guilty. But this guilt disappeared instantly after she felt the claws on her buttocks. This bastard is simply amazing. It's already this time, and she admitted her mistakes so guilty, but he actually wanted to take advantage of her. Exclamation mark. Pa Ling Ling waved her little hand and slapped her little pages, but Tangmao also dodged quickly, and finally Ling Ling slapped her with all her strength. Not to mention, the sound of the bullet was quite loud. "I couldn't bear to hit you. Why did you hit yourself?" Tangmao said with a smile. Go to hell. The feeling of guilt just now disappeared in an instant, replaced by complete shame and anger. Tangmao didn't care. According to Yanji's perception, there was indeed a strong fire element flying in front. As a darling of the fire element, her perception of this holy land of fire was naturally very strong. Therefore, Tangmao was not worried about getting lost or anything, and the worst result was to eat demon meat without seasoning for a few days. It's nothing. When Ling Ling was about to say something, Tang Mao had already taken off. "What are you doing?" Ling Ling couldn't help but exclaimed. Although she felt that the direction they were driving was not wrong, it was just her feeling. It was not a wise choice to waste magic energy aimlessly now. You forgot that Jianji is a dulling of the element, and her perception of fire is also extremely strong. It told me that there is a strong fire element all the way forward. Tang Mao said with a smile. So my guilt just now was all in vain? Ling Ling forgot about this, and then glared at Tang Mao with dissatisfaction and said, "Being with you for a long time has affected my IQ." The reason why Ling Ling didn't think of this was really inseparable from Tang Mao. You know, if this dog man hadn't always molested her, how could such a mistake happen? It's okay, even if you are a silly lolly, I don't dislike you. Get out. Ling Ling rolled her eyes at Tang Mao, full of disgust. This weird uncle, a dead lolly control, is getting more and more excessive, especially after I started to grow up. This thing has never been a human for a day. With the induction of Zhao Yanji, Tang Mao kept flying forward, and then turned left and right to search for the destination. Obviously, they did go astray before, and the direction may have changed when they broke through the sandstorm formed by the dust storm devil grasshopper. Fortunately, they found the right direction again. This section of the road was a mixture of black rocks and sand dunes. Along the way, some magic stones that could be sold were found. Tang Mao naturally picked them up without hesitation. He would never pretend not to see such a gift from nature. Isn't it for resources and money? Tang Mao stopped at night. He was not in a hurry to get on the road. As I said, the little girl is still young and growing up. How can she bear this kind of sleepless travel consumption? When the two set up camp, Ling Ling looked at the scene in front of her and jumped in anger. It's no wonder she was angry. This dog is simply too much. Only one tent was prepared! Exclamation mark. Come in and rest. What are you doing? Tang Mao seemed to not care about this at all, looking at Ling Ling and shouting. Why don't you die? Ling Ling scolded unbearably. She was a little regretful now. Why did she only remember to look up information and not prepare some outdoor supplies? Question mark. Don't worry, I won't do anything to you. Come in quickly so that I can protect you at night. In this wilderness, this place full of yellow sand, even if she did something, little Ling Ling seemed to have no room to resist. TSK. Tang Mao felt evil again and blamed himself severely. I'm getting married. Ling Ling stared at Tang Mao with a look of don't try to ruin my innocence. I'll marry you. Such a cute little lolita, marrying someone else? Impossible. You're a big pig hoof. Who wants to marry you? In this world, Ling Ling probably knows Tang Mao's little troubles best besides Asha Ruaya. Okay, I won't make trouble with you anymore. Come in and rest. I promise not to touch you. Tang Mao also knew when to stop, especially since his little Lalita was almost crying. He naturally wouldn't bully her anymore. After all, if Ling King and Old Man Bao knew about this, they would probably fight him to the death. Although Tang Mao was a little shameless, Ling Ling knew that this bastard still had a little bit of reason. At this moment, she was very glad that her grandfather and sister were very strong. At night, in the tent. Dead pig, you've crossed the line. Get away from me. Take your pig's trotter away from me. This night, Ling Ling went to bed late as an exception. She usually had a normal schedule, but tonight she insisted on going to bed until 12 o'clock before she fell asleep peacefully. Tang Mao would naturally not really do anything. It was just to tease her. After all, Ling Ling is still young now. How could he hurt such a cute little lolly? If it was a girl of the same age, like that little moth girl, the noisy fox, etc., just based on his golden gun, tonight would be destined to be a sleepless night. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 422, Flame Mountains. The next morning, the two got up early and followed Yanji's instructions to the Flame Holy Land, where the flame element were dense. Although the temperature here has been rising, the road ahead still seems to have no end. Little Yanji can only feel the dense flame element in the distance, but she can't detect the exact coordinates at all. Another day of rushing. At night, Tangmao wanted to take a break, although the temperature here is much higher than the previous place. However, he couldn't conclude that the front must be the location of the Flame Holy Land. If he were to continue on his own, he could naturally continue on his way. It doesn't take so much time to rest, but Lingling, the little cutie, may not be able to bear it. Don't stop. Keep going. I'm not tired. Because of the increase in heat, Lingling's little face was still flushed even with Tangmao's ice magic. But after noticing that the heat was getting worse, she felt that she was probably one step closer to the destination. That's fine. You're still growing up. Tangmao didn't mean to continue moving forward. Then do you think I can sleep in such a hot place? Lingling said helplessly. Tangmao thought about it carefully. In such a hot place, even he who possesses the fire element may not be able to bear it. Not to mention Lingling, an ordinary person. Okay, then you just hold on for a while. I'm speeding up. As he said, silver light flashed around him. At this time, space teleportation is obviously the most suitable. After the teleportation, the wind wings of the wind system followed. Tangmao took off at full speed, and he himself drove the sandstorm. The reason why he didn't fly at full speed before was just because the magic energy consumed was too fast. Even if the magic energy was replenished quickly, it was still a big gap compared to the consumption. Wherever he passed, there was almost a strong wind. As the speed increased, the surrounding heat became more and more severe. The thin ice almost melted when it appeared. In order to prevent Lingling from being invaded by the heat, the primary magic of the ice system gradually became intermediate magic. With a thicker layer of ice wrapped around her, Lingling felt a little more comfortable. Although it was comfortable at the moment, Lingling thought that it was absolutely stupid to consume so much energy in this deserted desert. She said, Tangmao, don't do this. I can still bear this heat. Save some magic energy. Because she was protected by various magic energies, her speech was not affected at all. Follow me out. How can I let you suffer like this? Tangmao said indifferently. Even if the magic energy of ice, wind, and space is very consumed, he still has the explosive thunder as a trump card. And just as he finished speaking, a cluster of fire that was so bright that it made the stardust pale in an instant lit up at the highest point of a majestic mountain not far away. The scattered crown of fire began to spread along the sharp lines of the mountain, burning more than 10 kilometers in an instant, and even outlined the entire outline of the mountain that merged into the night with flames. The flames burned very suddenly, and fortunately Tangmao had a strong control, and stopped in time, and the ice system protected Lingling, so the two did not suffer substantial damage. I just felt a little bit of boiling heat. Although Tangmao is a shadow mage, it was too dark before, and the size of the mountain still gave people a hazy feeling. But as the flames ignited, and the fire shone, the entire desert magic mountain was fully presented. The feeling of rushing in the face, the hugeness, and the heat immediately left a huge shock in the hearts of the two. Buzz buzz buzz. Buzz 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 at the same time, not far away, there was a sound of flapping wings, very noisy. Tangmao looked over and saw a large number of stormy dust demons flying from a distance like turbid clouds. What are these stormy dust demons going to do? Are they looking for death? Looking at those stormy dust demons being swallowed by flames, some even burned into a piece in the air. Lingling said with some doubts. The flames continued to spread between the densely flying dust demons, and those demons whose wings were burned directly turned into drops of flame feathers and fell into the mountain. But even so, they still had no intention of stopping, and were still rushing towards the Flame Mountain range. I have to admire the number of the dust storm demon grasshoppers. It took an hour for such a huge Flame Mountain range to burn completely. Tangmao sighed slightly and said, maybe they are making sacrifices for their descendants? Lingling was stunned when she heard this, and then said seriously, if they keep doing this, the dust storm demon grasshoppers may be even more terrifying in the future. Demons are the same as us humans. They have never stopped getting stronger. When they get stronger, aren't we also getting stronger? Tangmao said indifferently. This kind of thing, even if you take it to heart, what can you do? How many dust storm demon grasshoppers are there? It's really like a sky full of stars. You can't kill them all. Lingling also understands this truth. If you can really kill all the demons and leave none alive, will humans still be able to hide in the safe world now? After the demon grasshoppers died, Tang Mao held Lingling and walked into the mountain. The residual heat of the flames was still there, and even he could feel the burning heat. Fortunately, he held Lingling all the way, otherwise, wouldn't that cute little foot be wasted? And the higher you go up the mountain, the higher the temperature of the mountain body. Gradually, only those who practice fire can continue to move forward. Moreover, the closer you get to the top of the mountain, even Tang Mao feels a burning sensation. This is enough to show that the temperature on this mountain is really exaggerated. When you come to the mouth of the mountain range, Xiao Yanji floats out. Immediately, she rolls over with excitement and follows Tang Mao to act like a spoiled child, saying that she likes this place too much. Then, under Tang Mao's impatient wave, she flies towards the flames. Xiao Yanji is worthy of being the darling of fire. It is suspended in the center of the most intense fire, allowing it to burn without any scars. Instead, the energy of fire is gathering madly towards Xiao Yanji. After seeing this scene, Tang Mao shouted again, "Dad will wait for you outside." After absorbing the flames here, come out quickly. Although there is the protection of soul fire and extreme cold ice, this is after all a place where fire element flourish, and Lingling may not be able to withstand it. After leaving a word, Tang Mao turned around and took Lingling away. Chapter 423, The Core of the Earth. Tang Mao turned around and teleported a long distance before stopping. But because it was so hot here, Lingling could only choose to stay in his arms. I wouldn't have come up if I had known. After all, she was a junior high school student, and it was so embarrassing to be held like this all the time. It's okay, there's no one else here, don't be shy. Tang Mao gently stroked Lingling and comforted her. You are shameless, it was already tormenting enough, and this bastard was still not honest. Lingling was so angry that her teeth itched, but she couldn't do anything. At this time, Tang Mao's body was extremely hot. Except for the ice magic energy constantly flowing out of his chest, which was still cool. Other places felt like they were roasted. Looking at such a cute little lolly, Tang Mao subconsciously tasted her tender little face. Without waiting for Lingling to get angry, Tang Mao began to practice in the dark. As for the task of releasing ice magic energy to protect Lingling, it was given to the eldest daughter. Although the eldest daughter also hated this kind of place, her younger sister had been to Xianshan with her, so she could only choose to endure it. Seeing Tang Mao start to practice meditation, Lingling was very unhappy, but she had to give up. Although it was extremely hot here, it must be said that this was a holy place that was extremely suitable for practicing the fire system. The speed of meditation was many times faster than usual. As a result, time began to pass quickly without knowing it. Although Lingling was not very comfortable, she couldn't help but lean on Tang Mao's arms in the middle of the night and fell asleep peacefully. The next day, when Tang Mao opened his eyes, he saw Yanji floating in front of him. The color of her flame also changed. It was no longer the brown color of the initial heavenly tribulation flame, but a red color that looked gorgeous and crazy. The most important thing was that no one knew when the fire breath of the entire flame mountain range completely disappeared and the temperature suddenly dropped a few degrees. Little Yanji showed off happily after seeing Tang Mao and Lingling wake up. Now, she is like her sister, a darling who has mastered two powerful elements. Well, now that we have obtained the flame, we can leave. Looking at the little Yanji who was jumping and whose strength directly surpassed that of the great commander, Tang Mao stroked her little head and said, "Ying." Little Yanji obediently returned to Tang Mao's contract space. Then he went down the mountain. With his speed, it was naturally quite fast. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the foot of the mountain. After arriving at the foot of the mountain, Tang Mao hesitated for a moment and then flew back to the place where he came from. Originally, he wanted to look for the core of the earth, but who knows when he will find it with this aimless search. So, he began to choose to return. Along the way, Tang Mao and his companions went around in circles. Unfortunately, his magic energy replenished quickly. The food and water they brought when they came were sufficient, so they insisted on walking out of the desert. They came to the nearby Terem fortress. It was built entirely of grey-white rocks. This was a fortress city where hundreds of thousands of people lived. With the Terem fortress city as the center, there were many towns in the basin within a radius of 100 kilometers that were mainly based on mines, stone factories, wind power bases, and light source bases. These towns were also within the security boundary. Every week, a group of troops from the Terem fortress city would be assigned to these towns to guard them, preventing demons from the desert, plateau, and caves from invading. Just as he entered the city, a female soldier with an amazing bust was about to leave. When the female soldier saw Tang Mao and Lingling, she stopped directly. Tang Mao? Big breasts. The two spoke at the same time, but Tang Mao forgot her name for a moment and subconsciously called out her bulge. Slut. Lingling looked at Tang Mao with contempt and muttered in dissatisfaction. But Li Man didn't care. He smiled and asked, "Why are you here?" "I came here to find a soul fire, to make a snack for my daughter," Tang Mao said very proudly. Li Man curled her lips when she heard it. It felt like it was fake. It was so unreliable. After all, whose daughter would use soul fire as a snack? Question mark. Moreover, Tang Mao was so young, how could he have a daughter? Why are you in such a hurry? Although he could see that Li Man might not believe it, Tang Mao did not explain anything. "Oh no, it's because there is a scum in our army." Li Man curled his lips and then said, "In such a difficult time, who knew that Shi Qianxiao would actually betray? The most hateful thing is that he actually wanted to monopolize the earth core and use innocent lives to replenish the energy of the earth core." Tang Mao paused and said, "So, you are going to ask your superiors to see if there is any way to solve the evil energy in it?" He himself did not expect that even without anyone's participation, that Shi Qianxiao was still caught. Obviously, the military commanders in various parts of China are not useless. It's just that the protagonist's halo occupies the home court and affects their performance. However, although they captured Shi Qianxiao, the earth core has changed because of absorbing negative energy. Although it can temporarily support the barrier to resist the attack of demons, but this negative energy is too large. It can be said that it may be destroyed at any time. Then you don't need to ask any superiors. Take me there. It can be done in a few minutes. Tang Mao naturally couldn't miss this free energy supply. Lingling knew that Tang Mao had a bead that was specifically used to absorb strange powers to make up for the rewards after demonization, so it was not surprising. Li Man didn't know and looked at Tang Mao with disbelief. Why, the man who is the number one in our country, can he still say something wrong? It has to be admitted that the number one in the country is still quite important, especially for these border soldiers. Tang Mao's name is well known to them. Isn't the reason why they got a large amount of resource supplies this year because they achieved the first place in the world? So this title is really not useless. Li Man said again, "Do you really have a way?" "Bullshit, don't you believe in my strength?" Tang Mao responded dissatisfiedly, "Not really." Li Man hesitated for a moment and then said, "It's just that I'm afraid you will damage it. You know, this core of the earth is a truly precious thing. If it is damaged, the cost will be extremely high." Tang Mao curled his lips. How could he not know how precious this thing is? But he does have a way to solve the problem. Moreover, he also needed the negative energy in it, but he couldn't show it too obviously, so he had to say, "Stop talking nonsense. I won't care if you keep talking nonsense." Chapter 424 Zhao Manan is back. Seeing Tang Mao's look of only having one chance and not caring about it, if he didn't cherish it, Li Man actually believed it. "Okay, I'll take you there." Li Man nodded and then said, "But I have to tell you in advance, if you can't repair it and damage it, even if you are the first in the government, you will pay a heavy price. The most important thing is that my sister may not let you go. I won't care when the time comes." Tang Mao shrugged, looked at Li Man's fullness and said, "It's just you. If it were someone else, I wouldn't bother to care about it." Lingling saw it and silently cursed in her heart. Tang Mao is shameless. This is really shameless enough. She obviously wants to get this energy, but she pretends not to be interested. At the same time, Lingling looked at the big-breasted girl with contempt. Facing Tang Mao, this scumbag since she has no defense at all. She is really big-breasted and brainless. Then, under the leadership of Lee Man, the three came to the location of the core of the earth. Of course, Lee Man brought them here secretly because Tang Mao had helped Daunting Lake before, so she wanted to leave some room. Tang Mao didn't care about this. Anyway, he was sure that nothing would happen. What's there to worry about? As soon as they got close, the bead acted and came to the earth core, instantly taking all the evil energy inside it into the bead. In just a moment, there was no evil power in the earth core. Lee Man looked at Tang Mao standing there, and she was a little suspicious. Is this guy also thinking about the earth core? Although she didn't think so, the use of this thing was really impressive. It's hard to say. Just when she wanted to remind him, Tang Mao turned around and said, "The energy that doesn't belong to the earth core has been solved by me. You can check it out. As for how to replenish the missing energy, I can't help." What? Lee Man was surprised when she heard this. It was solved in just a short while? She didn't believe it at first, but after calling her sister to check, she found that the evil energy inside was really gone. Therefore, the two sisters also expressed their gratitude to Tang Mao. He did not refuse and accepted the goodwill of the two. And because of helping the military solve the problem, he also took a military plane back to the Magic City. After Ling Ling got on the plane, she said, "This adventure is really boring." "It's okay, the harvest is good," Tang Mao said happily. Ling Ling hummed in dissatisfaction and then said, "You are really good at acting. Not only did you get actual benefits, but you were also thanked a lot. It seems that you are really helping the military deal with troubles." "That's right." Tang Mao was not embarrassed at all and smiled and said, "This thing, even some big guys may not be able to solve it easily. I solved it so easily. Isn't it right for them to thank me?" Ling Ling was speechless about Tang Mao's shamelessness. The baby looked like he didn't want to pay attention to you and turned his head to look out the window. After returning to the Magic City, Tang Mao first sent Ling Ling back to the Kingshan hunting house. Then he came to the place outside Zhao Manan's house. When he came back, Qilin told him that Bazaar had come to the Magic City. He immediately realized that it should be Zhao Manan who came back. And the reason why he was waiting here was naturally because he wanted to see what state he was in. Speaking of which, this chicken was also pitiful. He finally fought for his reputation, but he was targeted by his own brother. It would be better if he had nothing in the past and lived happily by picking up girls all day. At this time, Zhao Manan seemed to have just come out of his house. He looked dazed and depressed. "Have you seen your father?" Hearing this, Zhao Manan, who was confused, was stunned, and then looked up at Tang Mao. Speaking of which, he was still very grateful to Tang Mao. After all, if it weren't for him, he might be dead now, right? Totem Bazaar told him a lot of things, including that Tang Mao was its boss. As for why Tang Mao was its boss, the tyrant didn't elaborate and Zhao Manan didn't care much about it. He just understood why Tang Mao asked him to walk towards the hills when he was in Venice. It turned out that he already knew that Zhao Yaoqian wanted to kill him. "Well, thank you." Zhao Manan looked at Tang Mao and showed an extremely ugly smile. Seeing that Tang Mao didn't respond, Zhao Manan asked again, "How did you know that Zhao Yaoqian would attack me?" "Because you performed too well. I think your businessman brother will definitely not let you return alive. After all, a successful businessman doesn't have the word family affection in his eyes," Tang Mao said, based on what he knew and judged. "Then why didn't you tell me at that time?" Zhao Manan asked again in confusion. Since he has the ability to command Zuan Wu, he can naturally protect him. After all, he is your brother. Some things can only be seen through after experiencing them. Tang Mao shrugged. "What if I didn't take that road that day, but went in another direction?" Zhao Manan hesitated for a moment and asked again. "Even if you don't go there, Bazaar can sense whether you are threatened. It will rush to rescue you at the fastest speed." He didn't want to answer this kind of stupid question. But this bastard is now a glass heart. He thinks it's better to give him some warmth. Sure enough, after hearing this, Zhao Manan smiled happily and said, "Thank you. It's great to meet you." Don't be disgusting. Tangmao curled his lips with a look of disgust and then said, what are your plans next? Zhao Manan shook his head in confusion and then said, I don't know yet, but I want to go around. Want to become stronger? He could understand the thoughts of this silly boy. However, there are some things that he still has to do. Of course, Emo Fan can't be left behind. After all, Emo Fan's life already belongs to him, and it's better to use a free thug. Nonsense. Zhao Manan said dissatisfiedly, if I was also a superclass mage that day, even that assassin might not be able to touch me. If he had not died at that time, the ending would have been different from what he is now. Even Zhao Yaoqian's ending was destined to be sad. But now, he has already died once. Even with Tang Mao's help, he has to deal with the entire Zhao family. Moreover, what he least wants is that his mother is heartbroken because of this kind of thing. Chapter 425. The Mu family is having a hard time. After Zhao Manan finished complaining, he looked at Tang Mao again. With a hint of excitement, he said, do you have a way to make me as strong as you? How dare you have such an idea? Tang Mao was very upset, but thinking that today was a time of loss for this bastard, he patiently explained, I mean that your cultivation can become stronger. As for wanting to be as strong as me, you should go to sleep. You can dream about anything. Zhao Manan paused. Although he felt a little despised, it was not wrong. A non-human like him seemed to be incomparable. Didn't Beizai tell you that the power of the vessel it gave you has not been fully demonstrated? Tang Mao asked in confusion. I said it, but how can a totem be so easy to find? Besides, didn't you also say that not all totems are still friendly to humans? Zhao Manan naturally knew about this, but it was not so easy to become stronger. That's true, but there are still many totem beasts that stick to their original intentions. Tang Mao firmly believed that there were still many surviving totems in this world, and they had not completely lost faith in humans. As long as he could find them and subdue them one by one, wouldn't he be able to walk sideways in the future? When others fight, they summon some dimensional monsters, which is already very impressive, but when he fights, he directly summons totems. The most important thing is that any totem beast is a leader at the monarch level, and each totem has its own special power. Even when facing a monster of a higher realm, it can fight with it. Speaking of which, Tang Mao has the idea of contracting a totem. For example, the totem beast Fei Lion encountered during the trip to Xianshan. Although the forced melon is not sweet, it quenches thirst. Moreover, until now, Tang Mao's contract space still has an empty position. Do you have any news about totem beasts? Zhao Manan asked. Yes, but that guy doesn't seem to like us. Tang Mao thought about it again and again, and decided to forget it. Fei Lion's momentum is better than Zuan Snake's, which is enough to prove that, if you want to defeat and subdue him, at least Zuan Snake and Beizai plus Bora and his incarnation of the demon system must come together, then there may be a chance. After all, there is a difference between subjugation and killing. Especially when the opponent is not weak, it will be more troublesome. Moreover, Xianshan is a forbidden area for humans. Even if Fei Lion is subdued, no one can say what kind of trouble will be caused by a few monarchs who do not belong there. He did search for some information about other elemental pets. But as an elemental pet, how can it be so easy to be found? It must be said that the power displayed by Zunu and Yanji really satisfied Tang Mao. If he can get a few elemental pets, then his strength will definitely be a big step forward. Zhao Manan felt bored after watching Tang Mao talking to himself and immersing himself in his own thoughts. After thinking about what happened today, she said she was going back to rest. Tang Mao thought about it and finally gave up. After returning home, she saw Mu Nugio sitting in the living room. It seemed that she had solved her own troubles. You are back. Just as Tang Mao approached, Mu Nugio suddenly asked. Yeah. Tang Mao nodded and asked again, Jiao Jiao, is your family in trouble? Mu Nugio nodded and shook her head. For a moment, it seemed that she didn't know how to start. In fact, whether she said it or not, Tang Mao knew it in her heart. It should be because of the suppression that the family had a hard time. Although it is also a noble family, it is still too far away from the noble family. But at the moment, he can't give Mu Nugio much help. After all, even his family has just been established. Let alone the Mew family. Even Munigio's Mew family can't be compared. Seeing that Munigio didn't know how to tell her, Tang Mao walked over, held her soft body in his arms, sat down and comforted her. Don't worry, everything will be fine. If you really can't make it, tell me and I will help you. Although she knew that it would not help much, whether she told Tang Mao or not, Munigio still responded. Tang Mao said again, I will try my best to help your Mew family in this family competition. Not long ago, Tang Mao just received a message from Muningsu. It seems that a large crystal mine appeared in the north of Phenio City towards the Nanling Forest, and because of this, they received an invitation from the East China Sea Magic Association. The East China Sea Association is the controller of some resources in the nearby area. They are responsible for allocating tasks here. In fact, according to reason, a clan like Tang Mao and his family cannot participate in this family competition. But because the resources this time are in Phenio City, they received the invitation from the other party. Munigio shook her head. She naturally understood Tang Mao's situation. With Tang Mao's current strength, it is a question whether he can survive. If we help the Mew family, will there be any chance of survival? I know you are doing this for my own good, but you are just starting your own family, so don't be distracted. If there is a day when you can't hold on, I will ask you to help me. Tang Mao naturally wouldn't insist on anything for the girl's understanding. Nodding, he immediately said, if you really can't hold on, tell me. I don't care about your family, but I don't want you to be sad. Thank you. Munigio leaned in Tang Mao's arms and said softly. And he suddenly remembered something, then lowered his head, and looked at the beauty in his arms and asked softly, Jiao, do you have a younger sister? Munigio was stunned, looked at Tang Mao in confusion and said, yes, how did you know? Oh, it's okay, just asking casually. When Tang Mao finished asking, he felt a little quick-witted. Although it seems that this sister is very fragrant, it is a bit too much to say this at this time. But he didn't say anything. Munigio's beautiful eyes were locked. She looked at Tang Mao and asked seriously, you don't want to catch my sister's attention, do you? Whether to say it or not, although there was indeed a moment of heartbeat, looking at Munigio's serious look, it was obvious that she was on the verge of anger. If she continued to talk, let alone talk about sisters, even she would be afraid that she would slap herself a few times and turn away. Am I that kind of person in your heart? But at this time, no matter what you think in your heart, you have to pretend. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.